Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the best entitled people stories we've read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled people you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that for every thumbs up this video gets, she won't try to get anyone fired for an entire week. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen took my credit card while I was asleep. I, 27, male, have been with my girlfriend, 24, female, for 7 months. We don't live together, and she has sleepovers at my place regularly. 2 days ago, she spent the night at my place, and in the morning, while I was sleeping in, she got up, got dressed, took my credit card, and went grocery shopping with it. I woke up to a massive breakfast made by her as a surprise, and when I asked her how she got the money and time to prepare all that, she told me she took my credit card while I was asleep and headed to the supermarket to get the stuff she needed to make me a surprise breakfast. I was stunned. I asked why she didn't ask before taking my credit card, and she said I was sleeping and she didn't want to bother me. Besides that, she wanted this to be a surprise. I just stared and said, "I don't know. You do realize you technically stole from me when you took my credit card and went shopping with it without my consent, right?" She looked at me in complete shock and confusion and said that she was just trying to do something nice for me, and I just implied that she was a thief. I just shrugged and said it was technically true. She was so upset, she got up and stormed out of the kitchen crying. She collected her stuff and left after she said she spent time and effort to prepare me breakfast, and I was out of line to say she stole from me just because she forgot her wallet at home. She kept hanging up when I tried calling her and later sent me money for the stuff she bought, although she didn't take anything with her. My sister came over, and when I told her, she called me an ungrateful jerk with no manners to react this way after this display of affection by my girlfriend. She suggested I get over myself and apologize as soon as possible, but I decided to take my time. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Am I crazy being the only one, at least so far, who thinks this? You don't take someone's credit card. That is a huge violation. Yes, cooking breakfast is very nice. However, buying something for someone with their own money without asking is not. Buying someone a birthday gift with their own money is not cool. Why would this be? Especially with the additional fact, someone who OP has been dating for mere months thought it was okay to take his credit card. I'm going with everyone sucks here. Your girlfriend was really out of line for taking your credit card, no hyphens needed, and buying stuff without asking first. How does she not have any money to buy breakfast food? Is she still a student? Your response was over the top. It sounds like the response of someone who enjoys arguing with people on the internet for no reason. It was also deeply unkind. You could have figured out a better way to ask your girlfriend not to take your credit card and spend money without asking first, rather than by telling her that she is technically stealing from you. You're the jerk. I would give anything to have a girlfriend who would do something like that for me. Not only did she sleep over, but the next day she gets up early and goes to buy groceries to make you breakfast. I will never understand why girls choose jerks like you instead of the nice guys like me. Oh yeah, it's because I'm not 6'4" and don't have a six-pack. I also don't have tattoos, and I treat them with respect. In return, I am despised by them. It honestly serves her right to be with an ungrateful jerk like you. R/nice guys for the win. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. You shouldn't take someone's credit card without asking first, but it was nice to make him breakfast. Am I the jerk for telling my wife I get to invite whoever I want, whenever I want to my house? My wife is a stay-at-home mom while I work full-time. We have 2 kids that I help do 50% of their care while she handles cooking and cleaning and the other 50% of childcare as well. I'm sociable by nature and am fast at making friends, whether at work or outside of it. The problem my wife has is that I invite friends and coworkers, guests, over every few days to my house for dinner or lunch. Restaurants aren't an option now due to budget. My wife said she has to cook for my guests, though I never tell her to cook this or cook that, nor ever complain about her choice of meals because it depends. The guests eat whatever she feels like cooking, yet she complains that she has to cook for extra people which takes effort and time, and also since I sit with the guests, then she has to serve them by bringing coffee and preparing the table, etc. Since I told her I don't do these chores. But I thought that since this is her area of responsibilities, then where's the problem? I invited a few guests for Thanksgiving, 6 people, and when she found out, she lost it, saying I should have consulted her first. I said there was no need, because they'd just eat whatever she cooks, no problem. But she said she wasn't going to agree to cook large portions and for 6 extra people. Aside from serving them and handling, hosting that is just too much for her. I told her she was making a big deal out of it and should just stop freaking out over a few extra plates and glasses and whatnot. She said she didn't agree, but then I eventually had the guests over, and after they left, she started yelling at me, saying she was not mine and my guest server, and that I should stop having them over. That is when I told her very sternly that it's my house, and I get to invite whoever I want whenever I please, and called her unreasonable to react like that instead of being welcoming to the people who wanted to spend time with us, unlike her family who cut us off completely. But she shouted that she was done with being on my beck and call and having to be forced to take care of my guests in terms of serving and cooking, just because it's her part of the chores, and told me if I want to continue to have guests over, then I'll have to step up and cook for them myself, which I thought was quite rude and unfair of her. We went back and forth in this argument, and she then stopped talking to me and started giving me the silent treatment, making me feel like I'd committed some sin by having guests over. Info. I just wanted to explain that my wife's main issue isn't about cooking itself, but having to cook extra for the guests, which is understandable. And I tried to compromise by suggesting we set time limits for when my guests visit to avoid having to include them in dinners and whatnot, and also suggested we limit the frequency of those visits. But she stated she will still have an issue with it and gave me the options of either handling the hosting myself or just completely stop having them over or take them out to restaurants. But then restaurants consume money, and she was the one who advised against going to restaurants. Also, the reason I said it's my house, I meant that it's my house too, and not as if it's mine alone or hers alone. My wife has huge part in it, and she definitely gets a say in what goes on and what doesn't, and we don't usually disagree, except for this issue. Bro, you're the jerk, especially if you aren't helping. Edit. OP, please tell me exactly how you are a 50% childcare parent when you have, presumably, a 40-plus hour job and are spending, conservatively, 4 to 8 hours a week entertaining guests. Because the only way the math checks out on that is if you count the hours you and your kids are presumably asleep and count the hours the guests are there, which is extremely disingenuous. Willing to bet the children are sent to their rooms and aren't interacting with the adults. You're doubling or tripling her workload of keeping a regular house while you sit on your butt while expecting her to take up all the slack of meeting the expectations of a proper host. It's also apparent that you don't cook, because there is a significant difference in cooking for, let's say, 4 people and cooking for 10 people. Just because they will eat what you cook doesn't mean that you have nearly tripled the amount she needs to make. And then on top of that, made it more complicated as many dishes take longer to prepare properly if you need to make large quantities. Never mind all the dishes and extra work after the meal, which, let me guess, you don't help with those either. Seriously, if you don't understand the complexity of the work she does, you can shut up or do it yourself, because I'm certain if she refused to feed your guests, you'd be the first to decry how poorly she is behaving as a wife and hostess. Edit. Oh wait, she did threaten that, and now you're decrying it's her responsibility. Where do you think the food she is cooking anyway comes from? Do you believe she has the powers of Jesus and is able to feed 10 people from the amount of food that would normally only feed 4? Do you even know how to use the oven and stove? The sin isn't having guests over. The sin is not understanding the work your wife does in the household, and not understanding that while all you do is eat the food, how much work goes into preparing a good meal, being a good host, and all the cleanup afterwards. And then when your wife explains it to you, being too much of a jerk to figure out that feeding all of your friends is a lot of extra work, even if she isn't changing the menu for the day. If you don't even have the ability to cook at her level for 10 plus people at a time, you definitely better shut up. Your wife is completely in the right here. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. I hope she gets him a chef's hat for Christmas, because it looks like he might be doing the cooking from now on. Use the law to withhold my deposit? Well, okay, here we go. This was a few years ago, so some of the details are a little fuzzy, but I smile every time I think about this. I moved to California in 2010 and had lined up a house on a 3-acre property with a nice-sized detached barn. We were on a rent-to-own to allow time to get settled and secure the loan to buy the property. So we had a standard California rental agreement with a handshake agreement it would not be needed once we purchased the house. A couple little things to fill in. The female owner was a realtor, so there was a reasonable expectation she knew what she was doing. The husband was weird. I cannot explain it past that. But part of the agreement was we actually bought the horse that was boarded on the property, and also they had the detached barn full of their old crap, with the agreement that it would be removed by the owners once we purchased. So we move in. Things are going fairly good. We have several cats at the time, but keep the house cleaned up, and we had one cat prone to accidents, but for the most part, we kept everything good. Sometime during the winter, we have an issue with the septic system. The owner proceeds to let it slip. The septic was not put in legally and was not correct. Okay, they still paid for the repairs. A month or so later, a water line the husband installed to use for watering the horse broke, and again, find out it was not done correctly. This time, I was forced to pay for it. Okay, cool. Once I found out about the septic, I started looking for other houses and found one available, and we were able to get it. At this point, I give the owner about 2 months' notice. We had done some improvements on the property, including a tack shed. For all the horse gear, my stepdaughter loved horses, and the horse was hers. So almost immediately, the owner's attitude changes, and I realize we are in for a long 2 months. We're slowly moving into the new house, as we have time. During this time, the owner was randomly showing up without 24 hours notice, California law, attempting to show the house with zero warning, and the best one, she started inspecting the house before we were even moved out. At this point, we were about 75% moved. The new house was on 12.5 acres, and we did not have a pen to put the horse and goats into. One day, I get home from work, and we have to call a vet out. Owner's daughter, who used to own the horse, decided to give the horse and our 2 goats a year's worth of supplements for the horse. We ended up with a several $100 vet bill. So we sped things up and ended up clearing a few weeks early. Because of this, there were a few odds and ends left behind, including a wooden run-to for the goats. I spent about $500 on cleaning alone to make sure we got our deposit back. I even brought in a professional cleaning service to finish the house up. I spent many times moving from base housing while in military, so it's common. So we complete the final walkthrough with the owner, and she seems happy. She says she will figure everything out and send me a check. Okay, cool. About 4 weeks after the original move-out date, I get a large manila envelope in the mail from the owner. Strange, but okay, cool. I open it, and she is trying to charge me in the neighborhood of $2,500 on top of the $2,000 deposit she is keeping. Okay, lady, let's see what you got. In the envelope is about 10 small mailer envelopes and about 300 pictures of various things on the property and in the house, along with a 6-page letter outlining what I owe her for. So I start reading. Couple hundred for trash removal, including a list of items removed and the receipt for removal, several hundred for paint. During the walkthrough, I offered to paint the rooms we had painted. One was an obnoxious cotton candy pink, and the owner said no, it was fine. There's also a charge for close to $3,000 for brand new carpeting and high-end padding from Lowe's, as well as the receipt, and also an itemized charge for labor. I believe there were a few other items, but I didn't have the paperwork in front of me. Now, my first reaction was pure rage. I was seeing red. I wrote the nastiest letter to her 3 different times and took a step back. She had threatened to take me to court. Cue malicious compliance. I pulled up California rental laws, and at the time, there was a great website that explained what an owner could legally charge you for. So I sat down, and I believe the entire letter I responded to her with was around 15 pages. The highlights. I was not responsible for the painting or labor associated with, as I provided the final inspection that did not note any issues with paint color. I was not responsible for the trash removal, as she listed one item that was ours, the plywood run-to in the field, And the items actually listed were all her personal items removed from the detached barn, and it was not my responsibility. I was not responsible for paying the emergency plumbing repair mentioned earlier, and I provided the bill and the fact it was an emergency, as it was flooding over half the property and making entrance to the property impossible. The best one was the last, the carpets. So in her letter, she mentioned a horrible smell of cat urine, which she proceeds to explain occurred during the illegal inspections. She also had provided documentation on the cost of materials, including all of her purchases. The best part? They were all dated prior to our final walkthrough. No matter the result, she was replacing that carpet. So California law is very specific on what the owner can charge for carpets. At the final walkthrough, she was okay with the carpets, but then changed her mind a few days later. So I explained to the letter that I was responsible for roughly 1/30th of the cost of replacement, as she graciously showed me the 10-year-old carpet was good for 30 years. So due to the fact it was normal wear and tear, I agreed to cover that portion. It was only a couple hundred. Now in her letter, she threatened legal action as well. So I put everything together, including a final breakdown of what was owed to her and what was owed to me, and it was close to $1,500. I also informed her I was ready to take the case to court if she didn't agree with me, as that was the next legal step. About a month later, she had 30 days to respond. I get a check for $1,250 and a short note saying she expected this issue was considered resolved. I have never smiled so much cashing a check. Am I the jerk for reminding my girlfriend that a Roomba is just a Roomba? 2 years ago on Black Friday, my live-in girlfriend bought a Roomba on sale. She was really excited because we have a lot of pets and we did have to vacuum a lot. We still have to vacuum the furniture, but the Roomba handles the floors. He's on a strict routine she sets up and gets every part of our apartment. I definitely like the thing, but my girlfriend has become obsessed with it. She immediately gave him a name of an anime character, and she changed the language it says errors in to Japanese, which is kind of a pain because we never know what the error is. She also has really personified this thing, and when she brushes the dogs and cats once a week, she thoroughly cleans the Roomba with special tools she bought and everything. But the thing that made me feel weird is how she talks to it. She just coos to this Roomba all the time about what a good job he does and how much we love him, just like he's a pet. It's weird to me. This morning, it kind of came to a head because as she was fixing the animal's breakfast before we went to work, she poured out some sprinkles on the floor and brought the Roomba to them and sung happy birthday to it and made it clean them up. I just watched this all from the table, and when she was done, I gently said, "Do you think this is normal?" She was confused, so I was like, "It's just a Roomba. You are so extra with it, and it's kind of creepy." I've made comments before, but she always said, "It's because I appreciate how hard he works and how much he helps us." But feeding it sprinkles for me took it over the line of annoying to concerning. I told her I was kind of worried that she was obsessed with it and a little worried about her. She was, I guess, not sure what to say, but we didn't have a lot of time before we both went off to work. I've tried texting her and she hasn't responded, which she usually does because she walks to our apartment for her lunch break to let the pets out and stuff. I'm kind of worried that I hurt her feelings, but I feel justified in bringing up the issue because I really don't think this behavior is normal, and I am honestly worried about her mental health because of this. Edit. I need to stop goofing off at work and get stuff done, but thanks everyone for the comments. Not what I was expecting from Reddit. I was expecting the usual, "This is a major red flag, break up now" response. Maybe I was looking into it too much. Someone hilariously suggested to get a gift for its birthday, so I think I will bring that home with an apology for saying she was weird and obsessed. I still think it's weird, but like a lot of you said, it's not hurting me. I think I'll pick up stickers and maybe a birthday hat for it. You're the jerk. Out of all the things that could be wrong with a significant other, personifying a Roomba is very, very far down the list. When I was a kid and the bathroom sink tap used to leak out what looked to me like a tear, I would always gently wipe it away. You're the jerk. She's not doing anything wrong by being kind to a robot. You might want to ask yourself why you're having such a monumentally hard time extending empathy. Only thing that's even a problem here is the error message language thing, because for practical purposes, that's not working. Am I the jerk for discussing veganism and bringing a vegan dish to Thanksgiving dinner? Early in 2020, I, 22 female, decided to go vegan. It was an idea I was toying with for a while, and being home by myself and having the time to figure it out, I decided to try it. I've been vegan for 15 months now, and I love it. For Thanksgiving this year, my parents invited some extended family, and I offered to bring dessert. I made pumpkin pie, and yes, it was vegan. I honestly wasn't expecting to be able to eat much besides the veggies, but my mom surprised me by making the entire dinner, minus the turkey, vegan-friendly. Examples: margarine instead of butter in the mashed potatoes, veggie broth for the stuffing, etc. I was delighted that she went to the effort. Dinner comes around, and I'm happily eating a full plate, minus the turkey. One of my uncles noticed and asked why, and I told him I was vegan now. He rolled his eyes and told me it's not a real Thanksgiving dinner without turkey. My aunt, his wife, asked me why, and I explained my reasons. Mainly that I think the industrial meat, dairy, and egg industry are needlessly cruel, and I don't want to participate anymore. My uncle got offended at that and started accusing me of being holier than thou, and started to spout out anti-vegan arguments, which I mostly ignored. My cousin said, "Wait, how are you eating the mashed potatoes?" And my mom jumped in, explaining the recipe. My aunt started talking about how unfair it was that my mom had to spend extra time and money in the kitchen for me, even though my mom insisted it was her choice. I brought my pie out for dessert, and my uncle said, "Let me guess, this is vegan too?" And I replied, "Yes, it is." He didn't try it, and neither did most of my family, and they complained about not getting a real dessert. Then most of my family left early, right after dessert. My uncle texted me this morning saying that my behavior was unfair and that I shouldn't be pushing my lifestyle on anyone. He accused me of ruining Thanksgiving dinner by preaching and serving fake food, accusing me of guilting my mom into going along with this phase. He said I made the whole dinner about me. His text has been weighing on me all day. This was our first time seeing extended family since everything went upside down, and maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. Or bought a normal pie that everyone could enjoy. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I absolutely love the argument that you're pushing your lifestyle on them because God forbid a single morsel of non-dairy, meat-free food passed their lips. Glad your mom made the meal more accommodating for you. Not the jerk. From the title, I was getting ready to be annoyed by someone preaching about a vegan lifestyle while others tried to enjoy non-vegan food. But it sounds like this was a fantastically well-handled meal. Your mother made a few simple changes to help you out. Moms do that, and it would have never come up if nosy uncle wasn't watching your plate. Everyone should have been able to enjoy this together without issue. Your uncle, and maybe some others, are the jerks here. Thanksgiving guests brought to-go containers and casually filled them up throughout the meal. My boyfriend's cousin brought her mother, her boyfriend, and his 2 kids in their late 20s over for Thanksgiving. We've celebrated a few holidays with them at the cousin's house over the last few years, but our conversations have always been strictly small talk. We don't really know them well, but they seem like nice people. They didn't do this at the cousin's house, at least not in our presence, so it was a surprise. We had no problem inviting them. This was their first time at our house. But yeah, these folks apparently thought this was okay. Nobody said a word about it. The only thing I could think of to say was, "What the heck are you doing, jerks?" But couldn't bring myself to say it in front of a bunch of old people at Thanksgiving. If that was me, and my mom or dad was at the table, they would have been the first to say something to me, and they would not have said it privately or nicely regardless of my age. This dad did a very bad job of pretending to not notice. The cousin and her mom were clearly embarrassed, but did nothing. Oh, and they went into the fridge without asking. Again, these are basically acquaintances in someone's house for the first time. They got lots of side eyes from everyone at the table, but that's it. I was actually hoping one of my boyfriend's aunts would tell them off. It would have been very entertaining. At first, I was mad at myself for not saying anything, but now I'm glad I didn't. We see these people twice a year for a couple of hours at the very most. We still had plenty of food, and I would have given them what they took anyway. The old folks really enjoyed getting together again, and I'm glad I didn't ruin it. They're never setting foot in this house again, obviously. Update. Just had a call from the cousin. One of my boyfriend's aunties let the 2 entitled jerks have it on the way home. They probably thought they were safe from their dad because they drove here separately, but they made the grave mistake of offering to drive a couple of the aunties home, which makes them not all bad, I agree. I'm sure they were accused of being raised by wolves. These ladies don't have much of a filter, and they're tough to stop once they get going. The cousin is a normal person, so of course she apologized and agreed that the dad should have spoken up. I didn't ask why he didn't. This is the first time he has done anything I disagreed with in the 6 years we've known him, so I'm giving him a pass. Thanks so much for the nice feedback. I'm glad you all enjoyed my little tale of Thanksgiving entitlement. Brand new manager tries to fire me. Let's see how this ends. I am a 100% disabled vet, but I still wanted to work for as long as I can. I worked in a large company that contracted to many of the big oil companies. For years, I had excellent reviews and the customers loved me. My manager got promoted and one of my coworkers became the newly promoted manager. We started out fine, but then as he went through management training, he became the boss people hate. He was trying to flex his muscles by using all the usual tricks of setting you up to fail in order to fire me and a couple others. Why? I have no idea. One day at work, I had a major medical emergency that left the right half of my body with no feeling at all, completely numb. That took me out of the office for several weeks while they used medicine to try and help sort out the issue. A couple months and an MRI and a spinal tap later, they discovered I had multiple sclerosis. After I was diagnosed, he decided to pull me out of the customer site and have me work in the office. My job had zero office work. I spent nearly a year in the office getting paid to do stupid mind-numbing stuff while he tried to figure out a way to fire me. Since the initial issue was medical, it proved to be very difficult, so he would try to assign me to long-term duties, like 6 months, hundreds of miles from home, knowing I could not do them. He also was nitpicking any menial task I did not perform to his liking. He knew I could not travel as I have to see several doctors every month, and I can only refill medications from my local VA, Veterans Affairs clinic. While he was trying to fire me, I was talking to HR about my disability and how it's obvious that I could no longer perform my job for safety concerns. That was the reason my boss pulled me into the office. I also informed HR about how the manager treated me and several other employees. They had me do several things, including sending my medical records to a company medical doctor to make sure I was being honest, I assume. In the end, HR decided to put me out on pre-approved early retirement with short and long-term disability. Now I will get paid from the company till I am 67, all before he could get the chance to fire me. Additionally, several other workers quit around the same time as me, and a short time after I left, he was replaced by a different coworker. Reply: yeah, your new boss messed up big time. One good rule to adhere to about handling any person who suffers an injury at work, such as your major medical incident, is that you never make drastic changes to their work type, workload, or responsibilities unless those changes are medically advised or requested by the employee and fully vetted by HR. It's way too easy to wind up in court with someone alleging that you changed these things to try to fire them or force them to quit. Then the company is on the hook for whatever the former employee's lawyers can get a judge to agree to, because they're absolutely going to win any court case they bring. HR saw your medical records, vet, and disability status, and made a sensible choice to offer you pay to see if that would shut down a potentially very expensive lawsuit. Boss agrees with secretary that I'm not the office manager, so I stop managing the office. When I was doing my articles at a small law firm, internship to be admitted as an attorney, I was the go-to person for everything at the office, setting up computers, buying stationery, paying bills, going to court, seeing clients, etc. After being admitted as an attorney, I continued doing all this because the secretary only did about 20% of what a secretary would usually do and refused to do anything else. My boss does some shady business, doesn't pay taxes, etc., so he couldn't just fire her for fear of her ratting him out. He also never disciplined her. We are not in the US. Since we worked from my boss's mother's house, the secretary also spent about 50% of her day just chatting to his mother, and they became fast friends. Guess who was always the evil one that everyone ganged up on? Yours truly. I was made out to be incompetent at my job, and I used to cry a lot and almost became an alcoholic from work stress. One day, the secretary got really upset with me after I asked her to buy stationery since we didn't have enough staples, and after a heated argument, told me that I'm not the office manager and should stop lording it about as if I was. Bear in mind, I was her senior, both as an attorney and in number of years worked at the firm. My boss did nothing and rather got upset with me, and so did his mother. I decided then and there, I am done doing both secretary work and my attorney work because I was working roughly 50 to 60 hours per week, standard is 40, trying to get everything done without receiving overpay. The unemployment rate in my country is around 30%, and in the legal field, supply of lawyers exceeds demand. She knew this, and my boss knew this, but no one cared, and I was basically working myself into an early grave. Cue malicious compliance. If everyone agrees that I am not the office manager, then I will stop managing the flow of the office and only do my attorney work. I stopped paying the bills, buying the stationery, reminding my boss of important meetings, etc. Within 2 weeks, the electricity was cut off for 10 days because it wasn't paid, and my boss's elderly mother and the rest of his family had no electricity. We could also not work for those 10 days. Once the electricity went on, the phone lines were cut because of non-payment. We could again not work. The post piled up. There was no stationery. We couldn't do service of court documents because our service providers cut us off. It went on for weeks. I simply worked around the issues and sorted my life out. One example, when the Wi-Fi was off, I used my cell phone to hotspot my laptop without telling anyone. In the end, my boss and his mother begged me to do what I used to, but I refused. Since I was focusing more on my actual work, my fees increased and my pay increased as well. Shortly thereafter, I moved away from that office to our secondary office and worked alongside lovely colleagues who all did what they got paid to do. I've been at this new office, same firm, just a different location, for the last 2 years. Karen boss ruins our workplace, ends up losing her career. The Red Queen was number 2 in our office, a person who rose through treachery, backstabbing, personal connections, and incompetence. You know, the typical way a manager moves up. She spent 27 months as a line worker before deposing her supervisor in a coup. In this industry, it usually takes 5 years to get to a point where one really knows what they're doing. She then attached herself to an office boss known as Dan the Dirty, doing his hatchet work on employees, and so became indispensable to him. So when Dan the Dirty came to our office, he dragged the Red Queen with him. It was a 3-month honeymoon where the office was being inspected, so she kept her fangs hidden. The day after the inspection report came out, it was open season on the staff. The report did say that it was a very productive office. Well, several things came out within days. This was before we had electronic time cards, so she wrote up a 17-page rambling procedure on how to log your time. AL staying in town was one color, going away was another color. SL for yourself was one color, your male spouse was another, female spouse another, kids another, etc., etc. We had more colors than a Crayola 64 crayon box. Also, you had to log time by the minute, in spite of the fact that the system only took 15-minute increments. People were taking 21 minutes of leave and signing out at 5:19. It drove HR insane. In the procedure, if you came back from coffee after 15 minutes or lunch after 45, you were on leave. You could only take lunch between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. unless you had express written permission in advance from her. We're a 24-hour organization. People on the night were getting daily written authorization from her merely to eat. I was away on assignment in a time zone 6 hours different and had to get written authorization from her to eat for my entire team on a daily basis because we never ate between 10 and 2 for that time zone. You also had to sign in at exactly 8 and out at 5. Again, we're a 24-hour organization. The Red Queen also developed office and unit spies who would report you if your coffee break went 16 minutes. The office spies were also reviewing your email and your time cards to ferret out any malcontent or color violators. As you can imagine, this did wonders for trust and morale. This is one of about 100 insane things that she did. Here's the malicious compliance. One type of log entry on your time card was doing the time card. Huge swaths of employees began putting doing the time card on their time card. So your entire day could be doing the time card. Night shift employees began to only work between 8 and 5, and all-night productivity stopped. It wasn't long before productivity ground to a halt in the office, and panic began to take hold in the ivory tower. Unfortunately, the Red Queen countered by doctoring the records and cooking the books to make it look like we were still being productive so that headquarters wouldn't catch on, so she survived for 22 months before the office was on the verge of mutiny. I mean, why actually be productive when you can work 10 times harder to destroy productivity and make it only seem like you're being productive? But word did get out and an inspection was scheduled. In a move befitting Game of Thrones, the Red Queen threw Dan the Dirty under the bus and fled to a Connecticut office before inspection and then utterly destroyed that office. I wrote one of many letters to headquarters saying that Westeros had nothing on our organization and that a day in the office was like an episode of Game of Thrones, only with less blood and more paper. It all eventually caught up to her. The very head of the organization threw her out, but not before she destroyed one office and nearly destroyed 3 others. Last I heard, she was doing data entry in Colorado somewhere. Am I the jerk for kissing my husband at a friend's event? I, female 37, and my husband, male 42, attended my friend Becky's, female 36, annual barbecue last weekend. Becky and I have been close friends since college. I met my husband shortly after graduating, and while him and Becky have never been very close, such as hanging out without me, they have always been friendly towards one another, and we've all hung out together on numerous occasions. Becky recently lost her husband due to a medical issue. This year, Becky texted me the day before her event and told me that she was making this year's occasion a child-free one, and that meant I couldn't bring my 3-year-old, and that she understood if I couldn't make it. I bit my tongue in an effort to be respectful and thanked her for letting me know, and told her I indeed wouldn't be able to make it. She responded by saying she was looking forward to seeing my husband at dinner though. I saw no issue with this and sent her a thumbs up. The next morning was the day of Becky's event, and my mother-in-law luckily agreed to babysit our toddler. We thanked mother-in-law and headed over to Becky's with food, gifts, and no kids in tow. As we walked in, Becky greeted my husband with a hug and an excited, "Hello," and then turned to me with a sort of surprised look on her face. She didn't say much to me and went into her living room with everybody else. I went to put down the food on the counter while she introduced everybody to my husband and referred to him as "dear." My husband told me this later on in the evening. I walked into the room and she gave me no mind since she was deep in a conversation with a friend of hers. Sometime into the party, Becky and my husband were both standing at the patio door and she had her arm around his waist. He spotted and looked at me with a "help me" glare, so I made my way over thinking she had one too many. I gave him a kiss as he separated from her grasp. Becky looked at the both of us and then back at the others at the party with a shocked expression and then ran back into the house crying. She ran into the bedroom and locked the door and screamed at me to leave through the door. I tried asking her what had upset her and why she wanted us to leave numerous times. She refused to answer me and just kept crying. So we left and on the way out received some pretty dirty looks from the other partygoers. Later, I received texts from several mutual friends who scolded me for PDA and how Becky was so upset that I had made her party look tacky and that I was rubbing it in her face that she was a widow. I was so shocked and hurt to hear this and mentioned that every other couple at the event was also being relatively affectionate, and that despite my husband and I not being ones to commit PDA in public, I had given him a side hug and a peck kiss, and that was all. Anyways, I am at a loss at what I should do. I feel like I hurt a close friend, but I'm not sure how and what I can do to fix it. Reddit, help. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I mean, it's so obvious she was hitting on your husband. She's probably embarrassed and humiliated. OP should text her a fake apology. I'm sorry you got upset, but you see, husband signaled me to come kiss him because he felt really trapped by you clinging to him. Then write off the friendship, cause it's already over. Not the jerk. Firstly, it sounds like Becky needs to get some help. I don't think you did anything wrong and her reaction is blown out of proportion. But your husband needs to stand up to her behavior also. All I read is, Becky did this and Becky did that. Your husband can and should stand up and remove himself from an uncomfortable situation. You're the jerk. If I was in your position, I would gladly share him with her. You sound jealous and insecure. It's not the 1950s anymore, and neither women nor men should be bound by an insecure significant other. My husband's friend lost his wife a few years ago, and we had the idea to share me. Now, 3 years later, we still have sleepovers at least 2 times a week. My husband gets to play his Nintendo all night, and I get to experience heaven on earth. Then again, it takes a strong level of security in your relationship to play the way we do. Sadly, most of you will never have a relationship as strong as ours. Bruh. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Becky? Please let us know. Becky needs some help, bruh. Like the professional kind. I called my stepdad pathetic and my entitled mom spineless on Thanksgiving. I'm 19, female, and using a throwaway because my siblings use Reddit. I know it sounds bad, but here's the gist. I've got 2 siblings, 15 female and 17 male. And while I lived in mom and stepdad's household, currently at university, I was tasked with most chores. Washing dishes, doing laundry, cleaning, running errands, you name it, while my siblings had none. Their reasoning? You're older. I protested this many times, telling them my siblings were old enough to also share the chores, but stepdad always shouted me down and called me ungrateful after he put a roof over my head and fed me. That's been a line he's thrown at me endlessly. My siblings have been given anything they want, allowance, gifts, electronics, but if I asked for something, I was told I didn't need it. That's why I started babysitting at 12, so I could buy my own goods. I've worked ever since. They stopped buying me basic goods, like sanitary products, as soon as I started working. I'm at university on a full scholarship because I knew early on I'd be on my own on this front. I worked my butt off to get into my top choice. I love it there. I feel free and in control of my life. The issue came during dinner. Mom, stepdad, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins were there. I was talking to an aunt who had congratulated me on getting into my university, and stepdad says loudly, OP thinks her fancy college makes her better than everyone else as usual. I can't explain what was different this time, but I snapped. I told him he was pathetic for picking on me all my life, when all I'd done was try to be a good kid. And I told my mom she was spineless for letting him treat me this way, and I left, which felt like the right thing to do at the time. I slept at a friend's and got a train back to university the next day. My mother has since called me distraught, like full-on sobbing, saying I was being overdramatic and that I humiliated them. She says that I'm ungrateful because, look at how well you're doing, that's because of us. And I just don't know. I feel bad she's this hurt. People have it worse. I'm doing well. I have a family to come home to. I just don't know. Am I being dramatic? Am I the jerk? Update. 1. I can't tell you how validating these comments have been. I never talk about my family in real life because deep down, I think I feel ashamed of how my family treats me. So this has been helpful, really. I don't have it in me to tell them what I need to tell them outright, but I do have it in me to go no contact. They don't fund any part of my life, so the only thing they can hold over me is themselves. I'm writing an email now to let them know not to contact me and that I won't be contacting them until I'm ready to communicate. 2. Brother texted, Mom won't stop crying. Hope you're happy. Sister texted, this sucks. So there's that. I love my younger siblings, but I'm going no contact with them as well before I figure out what I want. Thanks for the support. Not the jerk. OP, your mother is spineless. She has allowed for you to be treated as less than for being a stepchild. She allowed for you to go without for the sake of peace. You are not overdramatic and deserve better. Keep in contact with those who truly value you and move on. If you want to tell your mom your feelings before doing so, go ahead. But she will not be open to what she has done in order to protect herself from facing her neglect. That is not on you. Your siblings suck too for never speaking up for you. Go make your own family, not the jerk. Am I the jerk for ousting my brother and his pregnant girlfriend? I, 27 female, have a little brother, 23 male, named Tyler. Tyler has always been the golden prodigy child. I was unplanned and parents have always resented me. They never wanted me and reminded me of it every day. The moment I turned 18, I moved out. I attended a prestigious university and became successful. Despite my parents' best efforts, Tyler never reached his potential. This didn't upset my parents, even after he dropped out of college right before getting his degree. He finally pushed our parents off the edge after finding out that he had twins with a girl he got with and broke up with in high school. My parents were furious and finally kicked Tyler out. A few months ago, Tyler reached out to me begging for a place to stay for a little while. He had run out of rent money and needed help. I was reluctant, but soon broke down. I did request that he find a job ASAP. He agreed, and I told him my new address and flew him in. Things started off fine, and I brought home job papers and brochures as an attempt to get him working again. He signed up for a few interviews, dressed up all nice, and left the house. He wouldn't be back till late at night and sometimes even the next morning, saying he got caught up or met old friends. Long story short, in his off time, he was seeing a girl. Tyler started bringing her around a lot more often, and after a few months, I realized that she was starting to get big. Soon, they let slip that the child was conceived in my home. I was angry and almost kicked them out there and then, but I didn't have the heart to do it. Tyler mentioned something about our mom and dad wanting to meet his new girlfriend. I said it was probably a good idea for him to head home. In a few weeks, I heard knocking at my door. Tyler had invited our parents over to my house to meet his girlfriend in hopes of them being proud and letting him back into the house. I was furious, but I wasn't going to give up on this opportunity to get Tyler out of my house. We sat down and ate dinner, but the entire experience was horrible. My parents ignored me the entire time and forgot my name. They talked about how much they missed Tyler and regretted what they did, but were proud of his success and huge living space. They were sure it was his home, and my brother didn't even defend me. He went along with it as if it was his home. The conversation turned to Tyler and his significant other's romantic stories. Quickly, I saw timelines didn't add up. He had to have been seeing her while I was at work, and he was supposed to be finding work. Here's where I think I might be the jerk in the situation. I told them all to leave politely, but things escalated, and I ended up insulting the lot of them before forcing them out my door. I set them up in a motel for the night. Since then, my brother keeps texting me about how our parents won't let him back and how he doesn't have enough money for rent. I keep refusing, but I'm starting to feel a bit guilty. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your brother was literally using you for your house. I know you feel bad, but if you let him back, he'll use you again. Cut ties with him and your parents. You're already nice enough to set them up in a motel. That's completely enough. Tyler is old enough to make his own decisions. If he gets a girl pregnant, he can't dismiss it. His fault, not yours. Absolutely not the jerk. You didn't even have to welcome him in the first place. And when you did, with the condition he get a job, not only did he not do so, he went out and got another girl pregnant. He has made his bed, he is an adult, and now he gets to lie in it. Do not feel guilty. He took advantage of you, disrespected you, and broke your boundaries. Absolutely do not let him back in, or he will never leave, especially once they have the kid. They will take over your home and your life and make you miserable. Please, please, please trust your instincts. They are shouting at you not to allow him back. You would be the jerk to yourself if you allow him back in. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let Tyler live with you or not? Please let us know. I'd get a restraining order against him. Guy sounds like a complete wackadoodle. Am I the jerk for getting mad at my husband for saying he intends to spend holidays with his mom when our kids are adults? Mother-in-law has 3 kids and 7 grandkids. I know how much she loves her kids, but to be honest, she isn't a very good grandmother. She doesn't spend much time with the kids, doesn't seem too interested, and honestly, it's jarring to me because my family is the total opposite. Also note that she is in her mid-50s, so not elderly, and very active and has a better social life than me. So I just don't want you picturing some old lady. A couple years ago, mother-in-law set her kids down and said she loves them, but she can't handle holidays anymore. She can't deal with having that many kids around. Her nerves are shot. She dreads it. Also note that she was hosting Christmas, but I was doing Thanksgiving and sister-in-law was doing Easter. So we weren't putting all of the work on her. I'm not invalidating her choice, but the whole thing seemed so weird to me. Now she does Thanksgiving with her friends, Christmas with just her husband, usually on vacation, and I don't know about Easter. My husband is very close to her, and that's fine. He often has lunch with her during the work week. They talk a lot on the phone, and he has monthly family dinners, which I don't go to, and which last until 1 a.m. I'm fine with all of that. We do holidays with my family, and they love having the kids around. Recently, we were talking about our kids, how fast they're growing up, what we'll miss, but also stuff we're excited about getting back to. He mentioned that he was looking forward to having holidays with his mom again at some point. I was surprised, but he said at some point our kids will be off, probably married, and holidays might be less hectic, and he would like to spend some time with mother-in-law. I said that she forfeited that when she opted out of all family holidays, and of course he should see her if he wants to, but I feel that she lost her holiday privileges. We ended up getting into an argument, and I said he was being selfish and making me feel like our kids are an inconvenience. He accused me of just never liking his mom. I said his mom is whatever, but he better not think I'm ever spending holidays with her again. so he is not putting his mom before his wife. You're the jerk. What the heck is a holiday privilege? If your husband wants to do holidays with her in the future when the kids are all moved out, that's up to him. You can't stop him from spending time with his mother that raised him just because you're not a fan of her. You're the jerk. You wrote the woman off because she didn't like being around a lot of kids? Some people just don't like that kind of chaos. I certainly don't. I hated my family's big get-togethers when I was a kid. I come from a very, very big family. Now that I have my own, I refuse to go to them. It's just me, my partner, and my kids. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk, or is her mother-in-law? Please let us know. Who doesn't love to have a bunch of screaming kids running around your house on holidays, complaining that you don't have the right chicken nuggets? Am I the jerk for saying someone's feelings aren't valid? My husband's best friend, Allison, is staying with us until New Year's. I had to work Black Friday, but we made plans with some other friends, best friend's brother and sister-in-law, a couple from college, and a friend of theirs from high school, to the movies and to get dinner. Since I work in the same shopping center as the theater, my husband dropped me off in the morning and I would meet them later. Husband texts asking if I'd be okay with the plans being tweaked. Everyone wants dinner first now because a party of 8 will probably have a longer wait later in the night. Not a problem, but the restaurant is back near our place, so I just take a lift there to make it easier. I get there and they're sitting at a 6-person booth with a chair tucked at the end of it. High school friend had to cancel last minute. I take the seat at the end and Allison is on one side and husband's college friend is on my other. Allison seemed surprised I even showed up. She assumed I would get my own dinner and wait at the theater for them. My husband is sitting on her other side and he asks if she'll switch with me, but she starts complaining about how her drink is already there and she feels exposed sitting on the end. I don't care, but college friend insists on switching with me so I can sit next to his wife. Allison is very me, so on their side of the table, she's talking and it's hard to get a word in edgewise. So I start a conversation with the wife college friend and Allison's sister-in-law. We're talking about whatever when Allison interrupts and asks if we even heard her story. We all say no, and she starts to tell a story again about her plans to move to Washington after New Year's. Cool. The three of us go back to our conversation about Squid Games or whatever show we were talking about, and she keeps asking me why I'm leaving her out of the conversation. I just say offhand that we're just having another conversation, and she goes, "As always, I'm excluded from OP's Cool Girl Club. Figures." I ask her what that means, and she starts tearing up and tells me how I shouldn't have organized a group out where she would be the odd one out, and she's always made to be the 3rd, 5th, or 7th wheel. She changed the place and time so I wouldn't come, and she'd get to feel part of the group for once. I'm like floored by this, because Allison is literally never the odd one out. She monopolizes every situation and must be the center of attention. Also, she purposely tried to exclude me from this night. I tell her she's being silly, and she tells me that I can't invalidate her feelings. I tell her her feelings are stupid and not valid, and I leave to go get some air outside. My husband comes after me. I tell him to keep Allison out until I'm at least asleep. I just can't deal with her crying and making this all about her. I wind up hanging out with sister-in-law and wife college friend, and the rest of them went to a bar to hear Allison cry for hours. Am I the jerk? Edit. For everyone saying she's probably after my husband, she's definitely after his attention, but I don't think she's after him in a hookup way. Allison dates women and was married to one for a short time, divorce that was her own fault, but does occasionally get with men. Definitely a strong lean towards women though. Edit 2. Her brother took her back to his place last night, but I know they won't house her for a whole month. No idea what her plans are, but if her dad won't take her, maybe she can move to Washington early. Not the jerk. To go out of her way to exclude you is, and then complain about feeling excluded is dumb. If she truly felt excluded a lot, which it sounds like she doesn't, she just wants to be the center of attention, then she should have told you that before dinner, privately. Or she could have stopped talking about herself and listened, joined in on the TV show conversation. She has no reason to be upset right now. She needs to learn she's not the center of attention, and she needs to not forget that you're literally housing her for more than a month. Not the jerk. No. You're entitled to your feelings doesn't mean that your perception is unquestionably correct, and no one's allowed to disagree with you. It doesn't mean your feelings are reasonable and well-founded. It doesn't mean you're justified in acting out in certain ways. It just means you privately acknowledge a feeling, rational or not, and then find some adult way to cope with it. It is telling that she tried to manipulate the timing and location of dinner so that you wouldn't be there and refused to change the seating when asked, leaving you in the chair at the end, then accused you of making her the odd man out. She sounds like a lot of emotional labor. Thank you for dumping your awful extended families at our hotel for the holidays. 5 months. I've worked at this property for 5 months, and in those 5 months, I'd say 9 out of 10 guests have been overly pleasant. Every now and then someone will complain. Someone will be really weird. Someone will have horns blown on their behalf and a red carpet thrown across the floor as to not soil their pristine, super shiny status shoes. But for the most part, the guests here haven't been so bad. And then this past week, we want a quiet room, no road noise. A big bag-toting, dyed blonde hair creature bellowed at me and my coworker upon entering the lobby. Our hotel is nowhere near a major road, but okay, maybe you don't know that. Not even 10 minutes passes, and the situation repeats with what was undoubtedly a clone. We want a quiet room, no road noise. A big bag-toting, dyed blonde hair creature bellowed at me and my coworker. Later, the lobby doors open once more. Do you have to work Thanksgiving? A lady asked me on check-in, one day before the holiday. I do, I'll be here. She puckers her lips and feigns sorrow. Oh, she coos. I hate making my employees work on the holidays. I bet you feel real bad about it, as you drop $200 staying with us tonight, ma'am. Another lady walks in. I'd like to check in. Me. Okay, what's the name? It's under my husband's name. Me. Is he here with you? Excuse me, sweetie, but no, he's not. Me. He'll need to be here with you to check in. I don't have your name on the reservation. Excuse me, sweetie, but no. Other properties have let me do this before. Me. We can get in touch with him to verify you're allowed to check in under his stay. Excuse me, sweetie, but this is ridiculous. Fine, call him. And I call him, and he's okay with it, but that's not the point. The situation repeats, albeit a little differently, sometime later. I'd like to check in. I find her reservation and proceed to start the check-in process. This is my husband's credit card. I stop and look at her. Is he here with you tonight? She looks offended. Excuse me, sweetie. He's in another state, but said I could use his card. In my head, I'm now pleading for Thor to strike me down with a merciful bolt of lightning. I can't use his card if he's not here, I reply. This is ridiculous. Other properties have let me do this before. I bet they have. I'll just step out and call him, she threatens, disappearing into the night. I don't see her again for the remainder of my shift. An older couple approaches the desk shortly after check-in. The man is balding, pale, and speaks like the worst impression of Tom Brokaw you've ever heard. His wife is smiling, pleasant, and quiet. Brokaw. Mister, yeah, so we'd like to book another night. Me. Sure. Wife. I thought we were going to the other hotel tonight. Brokaw. No, we're staying here. Wife. But aren't we… Would you shut up? Wife. You said… Brokaw turns to her and hoists a bony finger to his crusty lips. Shh. I stand there, stunned, watching the freak show of a late-stage marriage that will almost certainly end in either divorce or an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. As they walk away, I hear the wife saying, Don't ever talk to me like that again in front of people. Brokaw returned later that night to throw his dirty towels at me and demand a fresh set. My coworkers have reported similar encounters. Again, none of these normal, at least not in such a short span of time for our property. One guest verbally assaulted my coworker. I don't know if this is the maid staff way of getting a laugh by upsetting the customer, because the settings on his television were off. Another guest moved rooms 6 times. 6 times. My coworker was visibly shook, detailing the story to me. She was super rude, and no matter how many times I moved her, I could not make her happy. Nothing worked. You know the type. They come in looking for problems, and this week we've had them all. We got your awful mother-in-law. We got your rude grandfather. The influx has been extraordinarily noticeable, and this ridiculous holiday is my #1 culprit. It wasn't all bad though, and I'll end with a positive note. One older guest was determined to make me laugh and kept coming up to the desk with jokes that he thought were super clever, even though many of them are played out dad jokes that I've heard a million times. But I could tell he genuinely enjoyed making others smile, which I appreciated, especially the last few days, so I played along. But this one actually got me. We had a few moments of downtime, and this guest approaches the desk, smelling a little boozy from a night out at a nearby steakhouse. Okay, so when Beethoven passed away, he was buried in a churchyard. A couple days later, the town drunk was walking through the cemetery and heard some strange noise coming from the area where Beethoven was buried. Terrified, the drunk ran and got the magistrate to come and listen to it. When the magistrate arrived, he bent his ear to the grave, listened for a moment, and said, "Ah, yes, that's Beethoven's Ninth Symphony being played backwards." He listened a while longer. "There's the Eighth Symphony, and it's backwards too. There's the Seventh, the Sixth, the Fifth." "Backwards?" asked the drunk. "Why?" Suddenly, the realization of what was happening dawned on the magistrate. He stood up and announced, "There's nothing to worry about. It's just Beethoven decomposing." Am I the jerk? I wouldn't let my nephew hold my Nintendo Switch at Thanksgiving. I brought my Switch to Thanksgiving as a way to connect with my younger preteen cousins over Smash Brothers and Pokemon. I'm in my early 20s, so this is the only way I know how to build a relationship with them. They don't like sports or throwing the football around. For context, my older sister has a 4-year-old toddler who has some behavioral issues. She's raising both her kids in some unorthodox ways, and we're all kind of expected to understand the way she's taught them to deal with interacting with people and their emotions. I don't disagree with most of it, but some of it is strange. I have my Switch in my hands. 4-year-old comes up to me and tries to grab it out of my hands. I'm not necessarily opposed to letting him hold it with supervision, so I say please, and I'll give it to you, thinking this is a good thing. All heck broke loose. He started to scream, cry, and throw things. Not even a normal scream. You would think I was hurting him. Then everyone is looking at me, thinking I did the most terrible thing. My sister comes up, consoles the kid with some strange verbiage, and asks me for the Switch. I say no. She says, "I'm asking on his behalf." I still said no. If this is how he behaves, I'm not giving him the Switch. I said if he calms down and asks nicely, I'll let him hold it. I don't think that feeding into tantrums is a good thing to do. She then, instead of explaining, asking nicely for something to her son, calms her kid down and has him come up and ask me, "Why are you being a jerk to me?" I almost busted out laughing at this 4-year-old saying this. Then my sister says to me in her irritated mother voice, "Sometimes when you're 4 years old and don't know how to express your emotions, and this is a great way to build a relationship with your nephew." Sarcastically. Okay, that's fine. But you had your kid come up to me and call me names, but you couldn't get him to say please? Anyway, I don't give him the Switch. Both my sisters are vehemently upset with me. Older sister expects an apology for being rude to her son. She says I will not be seeing her kids anymore because she wants her sons to be in touch with their emotions. Personally, I think she's raising brats. Am I the jerk? Bruh, your sisters are idiots. I'm done. My Karen stepsister expects me to pay for her wedding. So my mom, I'm 29 male, got divorced from my dad when I was 6 years old and my sister was 8 years old. She didn't want anything to do with us, and she eventually got remarried to a guy who had a daughter 1 year younger than me. Our dad never remarried, and it was later that we found out that she cheated on dad with the guy she married. But she got back in contact with us when my sister turned 18 and has been in contact with us since. And I have to admit, she has been a good mother ever since, and we have a good relationship with our half-sister also. Now, before going any further, I must disclose that I was one of the founders of an app which was bought by a big private equity fund, and I got a high 8-figure settlement as a result. Also, I was a very early investor in Bitcoin, so from that, also I earned massive profit. Suffice to say, I am very well-to-do. So my sister decided to get married earlier this year, and I paid for the whole ceremony. It cost me around $80,000 in total. No issues, as I can afford it, and my sister was very happy, which is what matters in the end. Now my stepsister is getting married next month, and she called me to say that I should help her with expenses in her wedding. I refused. Why would I pay for her wedding? But then my mom called me and said that I shouldn't discriminate between my two sisters. Like, what the heck? I only have one. Mom says that since my stepsister and her fiance are not very well-to-do, I should help them. I told her that just because I paid for my own sister's wedding, it doesn't mean that I would pay for the wedding of the daughter of the guy she left us for. But she said that I am being petty. My sister and dad are on my side. Am I the jerk, Reddit? Not the jerk. You paid for your sister's wedding using your own money. Your sister was and is a part of your life. Your stepsister has nothing to do with you, and her demanding that you help her for her wedding is ridiculous. She's not even remotely related to you. It's your money to do what you want with. She's 28 years old, and if her fiance and her are not very well-to-do, then it doesn't sound like they should be having an expensive wedding, and them expecting someone else to pay for it is ridiculous. Like you said, why would you pay for the wedding? Everyone sucks here. By no means are you obligated to pay for your stepsister's wedding or even contribute to it, but by the way you refer to her, you only have one sister, you're being callous and dismissive. If you ever want a decent relationship with her, you need to think of her more like a sister and not just the daughter of the guy she left us for. Your stepsister is being presumptuous, which may or may not have been suggested by your mom. There should be no sides here. It's okay for there to be a difference of opinion, but the terms of this disagreement sound more like an MMA match than a family. You're the jerk. Oh, look what we have here. Another man with way too much money who refuses to help his own family with something as simple as a wedding. You sound just like my brother, who I went no contact with. Money seriously corrupts people. Well, what do you think? Should OP pay for his stepsister's wedding or not? Please let us know.
No way. She's trying to use you, bruh.
Nephew threw a huge tantrum because I didn't give him my son's toy. We hosted Thanksgiving at my place. My brother, his wife, and their almost 4-year-old son were among the guests. As people were leaving, my brother asked if my nephew could take home one of my 2-year-old son's toy trucks. My nephew had been playing with it nonstop since they arrived and wanted to keep it. My brother said that he'd replace the toy if I told him where I got it. I told my brother that I'd be happy to give him a link to the store where I bought it, but I would not give the toy to him then and there. I refused for 2 reasons. Firstly, my brother/sister-in-law have a terrible habit of giving my nephew everything he asks for. He is way too old for that. Secondly, I don't want to reinforce in my nephew that it's okay to just take things he wants. My brother said that my nephew would throw a tantrum if he didn't get the toy then and there, and that everything would be easier if I just let him take the toy and get sent a replacement in the mail. I told my brother that I would not be an enabler for my nephew's bad behavior and that it's my brother and sister-in-law's problem if he throws a tantrum. Of course, the inevitable happened. My nephew started shrieking inconsolably at the top of his lungs, and my brother, sister-in-law, and nephew had to leave. Later that evening, I got an angry text from my brother saying that my nephew screamed his head off for the entire 3-hour car ride home and only stopped screaming after he literally passed out from exhaustion. He said that the tantrum was my fault since it would have been completely avoided if I had just given my nephew the toy, and accused me of backseat parenting, since in his words, it's not my place to set an example for his son. My wife thinks we should have just handed the toy over to make things easier, especially since our son has a ton of toys and is not particularly attached to that specific truck and would not have noticed it missing for just a couple days. I still maintain that it's well within my rights to set an example for my nephew, even if it goes against my brother and sister-in-law's parenting style of coddling their son, and that the tantrum is 100% a result of their terrible parenting habits. Not the jerk. Your brother may think that it's easier to give in to his son's tantrums, but he's starting to reap what he's sown now. The 3-hour tantrum is his own fault for never teaching the kid proper boundaries and for teaching him that his parents would give him anything if he'd just throw a tantrum. Everyone sucks here. Your brother and his wife were absolutely in the wrong for making their kid's behavior your fault. Nephew's behavior is not your fault, no matter your decision about the toy. Where I do think you are a little bit the jerk is that you took this as a chance to berate your brother's parenting. You clearly have opinions about his parenting skills, which means you've seen this happen over the years, and thus have had plenty of time to talk to him about it in a less charged environment. The end of a holiday meal, where they are staring down the face of a 3-hour drive with a tantrum-prone child, isn't really the time to give advice and have it be listened to and taken to heart. I think you were right to not hand over your kid's toy, and your wife is probably sick of hearing you complain about your brother, so I can see where she's coming from. You're the jerk. I can't stand people who feel the need to act tough to kids. We're talking about a 4-year-old. If giving him the toy will make him shut up, just give him the toy. Well, what do you think? Should OP have given them the toy or not? Please let us know.
Who came up with this whole don't discipline your kids thing?
Am I the jerk for refusing to make a $120 cut of steak well done? So, we did a bit of an extravagant Friendsgiving this year, as I lucked into a strip loin of A5 Wagoo for a price that was unorthodox levels of cheap. My friend works for a high-end meat distributor and received it as a gift. It was a tight-knit event with only 10 of us there, mostly couples, including my friend who only started dating a girl within the last couple months. We had an array of dishes, but I was responsible for cooking the meat. Steak is about the closest thing I have to a religion, and I take it very seriously. The average steak for me takes about 4 to 5 hours to prepare and cook, from the sous vide to the cast iron to plate, though sometimes I take as much as 3 to 4 months butter aging or dry aging my meats to be certain that they are perfect. These were genuine A5, so I only sous vide them after cutting them into 2-inch steaks. There was pretty perfectly enough for one each, but I also made jerk chicken, mandarin duck breast, and a nice cut of cherry jalapeno salmon. I had quite the spread. I sous vide them to medium rare to be sure the fat was well rendered, but informed them that if absolutely necessary, I'd bring them up to medium on request.
Can we get some Karens or Kyles to tell Redder Boy how to correctly pronounce these words?
Please do, it helps out in the algorithm. Well, here comes the new girl to the group. She sees the first person cut into their steak and sees pink, and she is just mortified. Immediately, she starts talking about eating raw meat and stresses that the steak should be brown all the way through, or else you'll get sick. I informed her that this wasn't the case and that these steaks were actually cooked to the ideal temperature for the cut. She immediately demanded that I cook hers till it was brown all the way through, and I firmly said, not a chance. She proceeded to get angry and yelled that it was her steak and she should have it how she liked. I told her that there were plenty of other meats to choose from, as well as a plethora of side dishes that she could have, but her steak was not being made well done in my house. She said, "Jerk." Then she got up and started to stick the steak in the microwave. I got up and grabbed it out of her hand first, at which point half the steak fell onto the ground. My dogs quickly got to it, to which I said, well, at least it went to someone who wouldn't complain on a good steak. From there was definitely tension from that end of the table. They ate a little bit, then hurriedly left. Since then, my longtime friend and his new girlfriend have blocked me on social media and my phone number. They've even gone so far as to block the rest of the people at the table and cut off all ties. Yesterday, I received a PayPal invoice from my old friend for $25 that just said, pay for dry cleaning of her dress. I don't think anything actually spilled on her. I think it's just more drama, but as of now, I'm ignoring it and, unfortunately, probably washing my hands clean of an old friend. Am I the jerk here? Edit. I should state that a menu was sent weeks in advance with the express point that if someone wanted their steak cooked to a higher temperature, I'd really go to the grocery store and get some USDA Prime for them. Everyone sucks here. She was a terrible guest and you were an obnoxious host. Don't get me wrong, I can't even eat meat above a medium rare temp, but when you choose to cook for someone, you don't get to dictate how they eat it. You're gifting them a dish and they can do how they will with it, in the manner they enjoy it. The fact you'd rather have a dog eat the meat than the guest is pretty telling of how inconsiderate and controlling of a host you are. You're the jerk, assuming this is even real, because I can't fathom someone being this much of a jerk to their friends. You weren't the one eating the steak, she was. She can have it however she wants. The fact that you not only refused to cook it to her request, but then grabbed it away from her when she attempted to cook it further herself makes you a complete and total jerk in this situation. And the fact that you'll give a $120 steak to a dog before you let a person eat it well done is just ridiculous. I refused to let my parents move in and reminded them that they backed the wrong horse. I'm 37, male, and my family comes from and is a long line of doctors. Being a doctor is the only acceptable profession in their eyes, and anything aside from that is met with literal abandonment, which is what happened to me when I turned 17 and told my family I was not going to be a doctor, but to build an acting career, social media career, YouTube wasn't huge back then, and supplement my income with small business endeavors. When I told my family this, they kicked me out, and we subsequently lost contact for 17 years. During this time, they moved to the UK, and my sister became a doctor, and my older brother got into a very competitive stream for surgery, neurosurgery, specializing in spinal tumor diagnosis and removal, which he has now finished. We reconnected when lockdown hit, and they told me they were moving back to Sydney for lifestyle reasons, and because my brother has found a $750,000 a year job. During the last 2 years, they never asked me how my acting career or social media stuff went, and basically assumed I was just slumming it in Sydney. To their credit, they were correct in that I didn't make it big in acting. Maybe the world wasn't ready for a mainstream leading role Indian, or make it at all. I did, however, make it big as an investment banker and recently made partner at the bank I work. This came to head on Friday when I met them for house shopping. I walked to meet them, and when they asked about my car, I just said I preferred to walk, and they realized the areas they wanted to live, despite being highly paid medical professionals, simply wasn't going to be happening, as the houses cost north of $20 million. When we decided to call it a day and regroup, they suggested going to my place before going out to dinner. When we arrived at my house, they thought I was renting a room and inquired how much rent was. I informed them that I wasn't renting and that this was my house. They lost their crap, accusing me of lying to them for years and only meeting up to rub it in their face that I probably legally gained my wealth, and capped it off by informing me that they'll be living with me from now on instead of with my older brother, since they can't be seen living in a worse house than their son. I laughed at them and reminded them that they bet on my brother and sister and not me, and they have a better chance of living with my neighbors than me. At that point, they threatened to cut me out of their will, to which I reminded them of the fact that they can't even afford to buy in my area, so their will and assets don't really matter to me. Now they aren't talking to me, and my brother and sister are saying I should have been proactive in letting them know of my success. I have a public LinkedIn profile, so they literally never Googled me. Edit. Getting a lot of hate about including the terms social media influencer in my post. To clarify, this was 19 years ago, and I believe social media influencer is probably the updated term for the socialite. I wanted to be famous, but I had no real skills or plan as to how I was going to achieve that goal, like most social media people. Edit 2. A lot of people are critical that my family just kicked me out or that it's unlikely a parent would do this. Obviously, I wasn't a great child in their eyes in general, and this was the final straw, so to speak. Also, Desi parents are a different level of parents, from washing your father's feet to not speaking unless spoken to, not allowed to talk to the opposite gender, and viewing the head of house as an almost god figure. It's a bit different. Desi parents are also incredibly strict, not like your room needs to be clean strict, but like clean the entire house, wash the cars, wash and iron everyone's clothes, or you're getting it with a broom. For those people talking about house prices, yeah, Sydney is whack. House prices jump around a bit too, of course, but generally speaking, if you live in a house on the harbor, it wasn't cheap. Our former Prime Minister lived in a $70 million to $90 million house at Point Piper. Housing cooperative ticks me off. This may paint me in a bad light, but I don't care that much. Just a note, this happened in Poland. I am living in a block of flats with slightly higher standards, meaning we have a gate and our own parking spaces, trash cans, camera system, and everything. I work as a programmer and remotely. I'm also single and I keep mostly to myself. Try to never harm anyone, not get into any drama. Just live slowly and steadily alone, barely leaving home except for groceries, so my neighbors know me as that homeowner that never causes any problems and is always helpful and polite. One time I had to replace my current bed. It was old, dirty, and I just wanted something better. So I ordered a new bed and dismantled my old one, ready to be taken out. Once every 2 weeks, a truck comes in and checks through the neighborhood to take away all of the big things set beside the trash containers. That day was tomorrow. Sadly, I live on floor 3, so taking my old bed alone would just be too hard for me alone. I asked my brother for help, but he couldn't have done it tomorrow, so he helped me do it today. Now, before this, our block's terms of service say that you are not allowed to put out big trash except on the day the truck comes. So, not wanting to make any outburst, I asked my favorite neighbor for a favor, if I could put it on his parking spot the day before, because, well, I wouldn't be able to do it on the correct day. He gave me a thumbs up. Then I checked with another member of Housing Cooperative Board if it's fine, since the owner of the spot knows. He also said it's okay for him. I moved on with the plan. My brother came in, we moved my old bed outside, occupied the spot, and called it a day. That's when the Karen came in. She's around 50 plus years old from the looks. You know, the type that sits the whole day in the window and tries to find something to complain about. She got into my home and tried to explain that it's against our community rules, so I had to have it taken away right now. I, in exchange, tried to explain to her why I did that, how I got approval from people and whatnot. She was not having it. She threatened to call the police on me for littering if I didn't get it done today. I said, sure, okay, I guess I am technically in the wrong here, so I'll just comply. I called a private company to take away the bed today. I also specifically went to her home and told her it would be done today. She said it's fine. So the truck arrives, they start taking away the bed, and so do the police. Apparently, she already did call the police without waiting for me to do anything. I am livid and literally panicking, not because I was afraid of a fine or anything, but just because it was the first time in my life that someone did something hostile for me, even though I said I'd do what she wants. I explained the whole situation. The police see no problem. They don't even cite me anything. They just give me a handshake, pat my back, and leave. The lady that called the police looks out the window and yells, "Thank you, officers," with a grin. I am even more upset at this point. I think to myself, you want to perfectly obey the law? Fine, I'll make sure you do. I got the community rules from the council and studied them thoroughly to find potential reasons to make her life heck. I see her taking out the trash. I clearly hear glass bottles in the bag. I look out the window. She throws it in the wrong container. I call the community board. Bam! Your rent went up because you don't comply with our sorting garbage rules. Next day, I came back from groceries. I see her car. She parked a little over the line, so it's basically like taking up 2 spaces. I call the police. Bam! She gets a fine. She walks out her dog in our private space. As I watch her through the window, I see her dog going to the bathroom, but she doesn't scoop it up. Oh, did you just do that? I call community board with a complaint. She came to me and wanted to apologize. Now here's the part that makes me look bad. I said, no, I don't accept it. Why? Because I'll admit, I am vindictive to people who try to create trouble for others without a very good reason. I said, all I'm doing is making sure you are following the community rules. Is that wrong? And she scoffed at me something rude and went away. I've been doing that for like 3 months now. A month ago, she was kicked off the board for too many rule violations. Today, she moved out, but before she did, she made sure to put a bag of trash on my doorstep while I was away. Sad for her, she's too stupid, and the trash contained a letter with her information on it, so I had the last laugh by reporting it to the police. I know, rules are rules. I was technically in the wrong first for breaking them, but the moment she went out of her way to enforce them and do me over anyway, that's when the line was crossed. I have no shame for bullying her out of here. I was just doing God's work and ensuring that the rules are not broken. Thanks for reading. No, my old manager can't order me around either. First off, to be fair, I used to work at the place this happened. I used to work as a pickup clerk at a nearby Giant, but I stopped working there about a year ago. But because of my job, I basically have the entire store memorized, and I can quickly point out what row something should be in if I were asked. That, plus the fact that I sometimes chat with my old coworkers, could make someone assume I still worked there. Anyways, I was there yesterday, looking for ingredients I was missing for dinner. But while I was looking, someone walked up to me. She was about the same age as me and had the same vibe of, I need to find something, but I'm too anxious to just ask an employee, around her that I usually have. She got my attention, then politely asked where something in another aisle was. I pointed it out to her, she thanked me and went on her way, and I went back to looking for my ingredients. About a minute later, someone else came up to me and got my attention, but before I could even say yes, they started talking. Let's just call her Karen for now. Karen, I need to get whatever it was she needed. Me, oh, that's an aisle number, whatever it was. Karen, I already checked there, and they were all out. Me, oh, well, sorry about that. Maybe they'll have some more later. I then turned to go back to my shopping when she said the next magic words. Can't you just go to the back and check? Of course, I was pretty confused at that and turned to look at her. No, I don't work here. Karen immediately started to get annoyed. Yes, you do. I've seen you around here before, and you just finished helping the other girl. Me, well, I used to work here, so I know where stuff is, but I quit like a year ago. Don't give me that. Why else would you be here all the time? Yeah, because I shop here. Karen started to look genuinely upset when I said that for some reason, and I decided then was a perfect time to leave and avoid getting yelled at. I continued getting what I needed, constantly checking over my shoulder to make sure I wasn't being followed and probably looking incredibly suspicious. I finally got everything I needed and made a beeline towards the self-checkout area. Now, I should note that the self-checkout space is directly across from the customer service area, where you can look up and look directly at the self-checkout. I say that because when I finished bagging my stuff, I looked up to see the Karen from before talking to my old manager at the customer service desk. I should also note that my old manager is a large chunk of why I decided to quit, mostly because she was/is a controlling jerk that constantly breathes down other people's throats instead of doing any actual work. Surprisingly, she was doing her job for once and nodded along while Karen angrily ranted at her. I decided to ignore the two and started to head towards the exit. But of course, that was the exact moment Karen decided to look over and spot me trying to leave. She pointed at me and yelled,
Her! That girl right there!
Of course, everyone stopped and started to stare at me, which would have made just leaving a lot more awkward. So I stopped in my tracks. My old manager leaned over the counter to look at me, made a confused face, then turned to the lady. Manager: Sorry, ma'am, but she doesn't work here anymore. Apparently, being proven wrong by the manager was Karen's tipping point, because she suddenly started to scream at my old manager.
You're the manager. She's an employee. Tell her to help me now.
Surprisingly, my old manager gathered all the gall to actually turn to me again at that. Manager: Arvios, do you mind helping her? At this point, I was genuinely shocked at her question. I knew she would do anything for a customer at her employee's expense, but I didn't think it would extend to people that didn't even work for her. Me: Are you going to pay me? Manager: No, but me: Then yes, I do mind. See ya. And before either of them could say anything, I sped walked out of the store. I heard Karen start yelling again, but I couldn't properly catch what she was saying before I fully exited the store and headed towards my car. Not exactly an exciting ending. Sorry, I'm just still reeling at both how furious that lady got when I said I didn't work here anymore and the gall of my old manager to attempt to order me around after I haven't worked for her in literally a year. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Never enter a restaurant in uniform unless you're there to work. I was finally leaving work around midnight after a 12-hour shift. Big wedding, we needed everyone, and decided I needed something to eat. I was obviously too tired to cook, so I went to the closest fast food place that was still open, which Reddit doesn't want me to name, so let's call it the McClown space. Everyone with me? Perfect. So I enter and get in line. This McClown space has a touchscreen where you can order and pay, which is perfect for my little introvert self because you don't have to talk to anyone. In front of me was a family of 4, apparently having problems with the screen. Suddenly, the father turned around, looking at me angrily. Entitled Father: Isn't this thing supposed to print out a receipt for me? Me: Too tired to realize what was going on. I don't know. I suppose so. Entitled Dad: Well, what can I possibly do now? Me: Ask at the counter? He storms off to the counter, glaring daggers at me. I wondered how I wronged him, but then I noticed it's my time to order, and my craving for a deep-fried load of fat and salt with just the faintest hint of chicken aroma, accompanied by some watered-down, artificially flavored sugar syrup, overpowers all other thoughts. But, dear reader, where did I go wrong? I had made the mistake of entering in my uniform. Our uniform is the classic black vest, red tie combo. So while looking nothing like a McClown Space employee and having my name tag, etc. removed, I still did look like a waiter. Now, this specific McClown Space doesn't really have waiters of the kind that comes to your table and serves food, refills drinks, take orders, and remove empty plates. They have people working the counter and occasionally cleaning up empty tables, so I never figured I could be mistaken for an employee here. I was wrong. So I ordered, paid, got my food, and sat down, all in a matter of a few minutes. My order was pretty easy, and the screen was working just fine. I start digging in, and within a minute, I'm in greasy fast food heaven. It's at this time I notice the entitled father is standing in front of my table, glaring down at me, his family in tow. I look up at him, chicken nugget in hand, and that's when it hits him. Entitled Dad, suddenly looking a lot less angry. Wait, you don't work here, do you? Me: I don't. Well, I was about to tell you you're a terrible employee and have no idea what you're doing. But in that case... And with that, he and his family shuffle away. Let this be a lesson to you, fellow servers. Never enter a restaurant in uniform unless you are there for work. People will start blaming things on you. Use our restroom because it's broken. So I'm normally one to stalk Reddit in the shadows, but I figured I'd share a little Thanksgiving Karen moment I just had. I'm at work and on mobile, so I apologize for any format issues. Hopefully this is in the right place. Anyways, happy Thanksgiving everyone and enjoy. We've got me, the manager of this location, and we've got Karen, the entitled woman. So I work for a gas station chain that often is found on the same property as Walmart. And no, we are not Walmart as everyone seems to think. That's why we're open and they are closed. Thanksgiving Day, we are open and it's notoriously slow. So once I'm done with paperwork and such, I decided to get outside and do some stocking and cleaning, which wasn't done the night before as it should have been. We are a kiosk store, so the way it's set up is you have coolers and snack racks on either side of the walkway that leads you to the window where the register is. Said coolers are stocked through doors on the back side. The storage room and bathroom doors are on the side of the building near the back. So now that I've explained that, onto the encounter. I had just filled my cart with drinks and walked to the back side of the cooler to stock. I can hear and see if anyone passes in front of the cooler, so I know when a customer comes in. A woman passes in front of the cooler I'm stocking, so I stop, shut the door, and enter the kiosk to take care of her. Me. Good morning, ma'am. What can I do for you today? Karen.
Oh, I'm so thankful you are open. Is your bathroom unlocked?
Me. Yes, ma'am. We only close on Christmas, and I apologize for the inconvenience, but our bathroom is out of order and locked. Karen gets suddenly flustered and loud.
Well, why? Can't you fix it?
Me. Trying to hide the sigh I want to let out because I already know how this is going to go. No, ma'am. We are not able to fix it and are currently waiting on them to send a plumber out. The toilet is completely clogged and will not flush, and we believe we had a busted pipe somewhere. She cuts me off.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. You're just too lazy to fix it. I need to use your restroom, so open it for me.
At this point, her face and ears are getting red, and I'm just standing there with an annoyed look behind my mask as she yells at me. I take a deep breath and remind myself I have to be professional because I'm the manager. Me. No, ma'am, I cannot let you use my bathroom. I'm sorry, it's out of order. It will not flush, and we believe we have a busted line or a severe clog. Karen.
I gotta go. I have to go now. Nowhere else is open. You have to let me use it now.
She is full on screaming at me at this point. I kept hoping someone else would walk up, forcing her to give up and leave, but no such luck. Me. Ma'am, again, I'm sorry for your inconvenience, but the bathroom is out of order. At this point, I'm over it, and my frustration is starting to show. Karen.
You can't talk to me that way. I'm a paying customer. Unlock your bathroom now and get the manager on the phone because they need to know about their rude, lazy employee who won't let me use the bathroom.
Me. For starters, I am the manager. And no, the bathroom is out of order. And ma'am, you haven't purchased anything, so you're not a paying customer. If you'd like to purchase something, I can help you with that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I have plenty of work to keep myself busy on this slow day, and I'd like to get back to it. Never saw this woman in my life. She is definitely not a regular. She calms down suddenly and gets a smirk on her face.
Fine. I'll just call corporate's number and tell them how horrible you treated me.
I smirk back at her, pointing as I speak. Me. If that's what you'd like to do, ma'am, then I can provide you with that number. But I will let you know that everything we do here is recorded with audio. Showing her the microphone and cameras. Give me just a moment and I'll write down that number for you. Karen looks around and then gets flustered yet again, flailing her arms about.
No, you've done enough already. You've ruined my Thanksgiving. Hope you're happy.
She then storms off, gets in her car, and squeals tires out of the parking lot. And that was the end of that. People are so frustrating sometimes, but just gotta keep moving forward. Thank you for letting me share my lovely Thanksgiving Karen encounter. This job seems to attract those types of people, so I might just start sharing those stories more here. I hope everyone had an awesome and safe Thanksgiving this year, and for those who don't celebrate it, I hope you had an awesome day as well. Entitled mom demands to swap shifts with me because she has kids. Background: all persons here are nurses. We have a system in our hospital. Big shift changes, multiple days, must be done in the month before the new month. Single days just need some days in advance. Also, we have a system for the holidays. One year you work Christmas, the next year you work New Year's Eve and New Year's. As a young guy without kids, I mostly try to cover other people's Christmas for getting New Year's off. I mean, we celebrate with close family on Christmas Eve anyways. This year I had to work Christmas and asked around if anyone wanted to swap. One of my coworkers directly answered. She told me she would gladly work New Year's for me and I work Christmas for her. We talked to our charge nurse and gave green light and changed the schedule. She was happy to see her family after last year's Christmas was in lockdown, and I was happy to get hammered on New Year's Eve with my girlfriend and friends. But then today happened. Our entitled mom, or Nurse Karen, is one of my coworkers. She's okay at her job, although she complains when she can't leave on the dot. I never had any real problems with her. We just coexist. This happened on my break today. Nurse Karen.
Hey, OP.
Me. Oh, hi. I wasn't really paying attention. I ate my soup and browsed Reddit on my phone. Karen.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
So, I saw you and the other nurse swapped holidays.
Me. Yeah?
Well, I thought you could cancel it and cover my shift on Christmas.
Me. No.
What? Why? It's the same for you. You have your New Year's Eve off anyways.
Me. Well, yeah, maybe. But the other nurse made plans with her family.
Ugh, maybe. But I need Christmas off. I have kids, and she doesn't.
Me. Yeah, maybe. But she has plans too.
That's not fair. I had no chance to ask you first.
Me. Yes, you had. I asked in our insert instant messenger name work group. I then showed her the message in the group. And sorry, who comes fast paints first. A saying in my language. Not so good in English though.
Ugh, that's so unfair. You both don't have kids, so Christmas isn't that important to you. It's a family holiday.
Me. Yeah. The other nurse meets her family on Christmas. That's why I swapped with her. I give her my own copyrighted, "Forget you, sweetie," smile that I got from working in that soul-sucking snake pit, aka my hospital.
Ugh.
She then stomped off. I just get back to Reddit and continue to eat my onion soup. A mistake, because onion breath and masks aren't a good match. The nurse I swapped holidays with told me that Nurse Karen tried to talk her out of it too, but she wouldn't budge either. She then tried to talk to our charge nurse, but that was in vain. Our momentary charge is a work friend of me, and we are both male nurses, so we both have a secret but sacred bond to have each other's backs. Karen is upset because no one wants to swap, but that's not my problem. Reply. I rolled my eyes so hard at just the title. I can't stand the, "but I have kids, and therefore everything is more important for me, and everyone should understand that and be accommodating for me" argument. Good for you for not bending to her whims. OP. To be honest, I just don't care. My coworker just answered me first, so she got in. I'm a simple man, and I stand by my word. She answered, she called our charge nurse and everything, so I had no reason to change something. Reply. Former child of a nurse here. The entitled parent has an easy fix. Santa can't make it to every house in Christmas Eve, so some lucky kids get Christmas a day early. I bragged about that for weeks when I was 7-ish. Thanksgiving ruined and meal stolen by entitled parent. For context, you have my sister who's 30, my dad 62, my mom 65, and myself 34. The neighbor who's 37 and her kids ranging in ages from 17, the oldest son, to 9, the only daughter. Thanksgiving this year, my mom, a highly disabled and perfect mom in every sense of the word, spent 14 hours getting all the food prepared for everyone. She does this as a Christmas gift to us all. We buy everything, and she cooks most of the smaller things. We buy a pre-cooked ham to make things easier on her. Around 2 p.m., the neighbor and her 7 kids show up, asking if they could join since her husband left her and they have nowhere to go. He found out all but one kid weren't his and has fled the area. My mom tells them there isn't enough food to go around for more than the 5 of us. She keeps badgering my mom, all of this taking place while my dad, sister, wife, and I are grabbing last-minute things and a huge thank you gift for my mom. Eventually, the kids push in and start making their own plates. My mom is in tears and finally just moved away from the door and calls me immediately. We rush home to find that nearly all the food is gone via to-go boxes they brought with them, while they have gone home to eat our meal. My mom goes to lie down for a few and we call the police. An hour goes by and we wake my mom up when the police finally show up. We explain the situation to them show them the Ring doorbell footage of them coming and going and what was said, and the police say it's her word against the entire clan of trash, since my mom moved aside to let them through. They leave without even letting us file a report, even having the nerve to tell us we shouldn't do anything since the woman is having a hard time, and we should just be thankful we have each other for the holiday. On Saturday, all of us, mom included, are at the police station with pictures of the before and after of the meal, video with audio from the Ring doorbell, and wish to file charges against them for theft and elderly mistreatment and assault. The mom and her kids knocked my mom over on their way out. We also show the officer video of the interaction of the police response captured by my sister's phone. I'm just heartbroken as we spent all of our Thanksgiving in tears consoling my mom and making the best of what was left. Reply: this is terrible. I hope you pick a different day and have a Thanksgiving dinner all over again so you can properly celebrate and give thanks for each other. In the meantime, I'd put this story and the Ring footage on Nextdoor so all your neighbors can see who these pieces of crap are. OP: we had a small meal with what was left, which wasn't much. We are planning on having a Christmas dinner at my home the week before Christmas Day possibly, if everything goes as planned. People in the neighborhood we know well were given a copy of our written statement to the police department and a link to see both videos, the Ring footage and what my sister took when the authorities decided to show up. 3 of them provided the police with footage from their homes as well as letting us have a copy. You can clearly see what happened from the entire perspective of the footage we've pieced together. Due to legal advice, we can't show the footage online since it would show the identities of the minors involved. From my neighbor across the street's camera, you can see the entitled parent and her kids discussing something right before they walk up to the door. See all of the kids push past my mom as soon as the door opens, my mother disappear from the doorway in a single frame, and the entitled parent and kids exit the threshold of the doorway with arms full and briskly walk out of frame. Am I the jerk for keeping an unedited wedding photo when it upset mother-in-law? My husband and I have been married for 5 years, and his mom is the bane of my existence. She is the death by 1,000 cuts type and manages to be smug and condescending while playing it off as being dumb. I'm not feminine enough for her son doesn't make enough money, and I'm not the doting wife she envisioned. In short, we embarrass her. Mother-in-law is a huge girly girl, super vain, cares a lot about how she looks. She viewed my wedding as her little beauty pageant and acted like she was the one getting married. I gave her a lot of leeway because she was going through a divorce and lashing out. She broke down crying and had a rare, genuine moment, and then I was just like, forget it. You can have your too light, too sparkly dress. It obviously means a lot to you. Anyway, the night before the wedding, her and father-in-law, her soon-to-be ex, got into a little fight at the rehearsal dinner and left to go duke it out in the hall. One thing led to another, and father-in-law's girlfriend found them hooking up that night. She's a special kind of petty and went out and actually bought black ink, like for a pen, and doused them both in it while they slept to mark them as cheaters, but more so mother-in-law. This stuff would not wash off. Half of her hair was dyed black, while the other half was very well blonde. One cheek was black, and it was awful. She spent all morning scrubbing, but to no avail. She was freaking out and wanted to skip the wedding because she was so embarrassed, but my mom talked her down, and my photographer promised that he could edit all the pictures to make her look normal. She ended up getting another dress last minute to draw less attention, I guess, and sulked the day of. But the photographer worked his magic, and my pictures came out great. Also, mother-in-law and father-in-law are very happily back together, and at least father-in-law can laugh about that day. I did, however, ask him for a copy of the original, because, come on, it's funny. I keep it on display in my bathroom, and when mother-in-law boundary stomps, I look at it. I pretty much forgot because it's been years and I stopped paying attention. I hosted my in-laws recently, and brother-in-law's toddler went to the bathroom all over the bathroom during a tantrum, and his mother was making him clean it. Cue massive screaming and crying, and that was going to take a while. So I told mother-in-law she could use the master bathroom, because I'm an idiot and I forgot. Mother-in-law came out upset and demanded to know why I had that picture. I said it was my wedding picture and I can display it wherever I want. She began to throw a fit about how I hate her and I enjoy seeing her suffer, and this is proof that I've always hated her. Father-in-law tried to calm her down and said it was objectively funny, and he has a picture of her with the ink in his home office. She said that was different because he loves her, but I'm just a crappy person, and it's different because I'm a woman. I had to text her today, and she still seems a bit sulky. Everyone sucks here. Let's face it, your mother-in-law is correct. You do have the picture because you hate her. You did admit you enjoy looking at the picture when she makes you angry. It is petty and childish, but it sounds like it isn't entirely undeserved. From your post, it sounds like your mother-in-law hasn't done much on her end to try to repair the relationship either and has expected you to do all the heavy lifting. So some pettiness on your side can be expected. So yes, perhaps it is fine that you kept the picture for whatever reason. However, be honest why you did and understand that this day was probably inevitable from the day you put it up. Things like this tend to come out, and there was no way it was going to end well when it did. On the other hand, she is never going to like you, so why let her reaction bother you? Not the jerk. She doesn't get to decide what photo you have in your master bathroom. If she hadn't acted like a jerk during the period of your wedding, no such photo would exist. Maybe you need to let your husband be the one to deal with her from today forward. I'm not really understanding why you have to be in contact with her unless something serious were to happen to your husband. Ignore her tantrum. If she weren't so rotten to you, the picture wouldn't bring you so much joy. Maybe you wouldn't hate her if she weren't so inseparable towards you. She seems to have a tough time accepting the consequences of her own actions. I am curious though, who paid for the photographer? If you and your hubby, then that's awesome. If your mother-in-law, then the photographer basically betrayed her trust when promising to edit all photos to not show the effects of the ink. Am I the jerk for unpacking my girlfriend's towel? I, 31 male, and my girlfriend, 25 female, have been dating for about 2 years. My girlfriend has beautiful hair that seems a lot more low maintenance than most women I know. She doesn't use all 100 different hair products, nor does she blow dry it. It honestly doesn't take her long to style her hair or anything. However, she always insists on using this special towel to dry her hair. She insists that she can't use any regular towel for her hair. She gets mad if I use her hair towel as a regular towel too. She says that the towel should only be used for hair. She even bought an extra one of these towels that she keeps in her drawer at my place. She also takes the towel with her when she goes on vacation. I usually don't mind since the towel doesn't take up much space, and it's better than listening to a hairdryer all the time, but it's a bit weird because I don't know anyone else who has a towel just for their hair. For Thanksgiving, we traveled to see my family. Before the trip, I asked my girlfriend to leave her towel at home since we'll be staying at my parents' house. I don't want my family to think she was weird or make fun of her. Since we planned to leave early in the morning, girlfriend spent the night at my place. I noticed that she packed the towels she kept at my place in her suitcase. When she was asleep, I took the towel out. She didn't notice the towel was gone until after we got to my parents' house. I thought it was okay, and my girlfriend didn't seem mad at all during the whole trip. However, when we got back to my place, my girlfriend got into her car and drove off without saying goodbye. She texted me later saying she's mad at me because of that stupid towel and she needs some space. I keep calling and texting her, but she won't respond. My friends think she's being overly dramatic, but my girlfriend isn't that type of person. Now I'm wondering if I messed up. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. She packed that towel because she needed that towel. It's probably a microfiber towel. They tend to help dry hair quickly without blow drying, which can be damaging, especially if her hair is long or curly. It also helps reduce frizz, and if her hair is curly, to keep it in defined curls. Do some research on naturally curly hair care. Many people with straighter hair also find these techniques work well. If you don't know why someone is doing something, ask, or just let them do what they want. Don't mess up their routine just because you don't understand it. You're the jerk. First of all, it's really not that unusual for a woman to have a hair drying towel. Regular towels are heavy and can be rough, and using them to dry hair can cause the strands of hair to break. If you have long hair and want to keep it healthy, using a smaller microfiber or cotton towel makes a big difference. I'm sure the women in your family have at least heard of this and wouldn't find it odd. But even if it was a super weird thing, like a plush octopus that she feels the need to take with her wherever she goes or whatever, it would have been very crappy of you to take it out of the suitcase without telling her. That's just not an appropriate way to behave in a relationship. Not the jerk. People obsessing over special hair towels is how our society got itself into the predicament we're currently in. Your only mistake is asking about it here on Reddit, where nobody has a real-world experience. Speak to a group of actual men, and we'd all be telling you she's overreacting. But hey, do they ever not? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
I think that last commenter was the jerk. The guy sounded insufferable.
You want the product shipped next day air, no matter the cost? Roger that. I work in wholesale distribution of building materials. I don't sell to the public, I only sell to established accounts. This is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, most of my customers are great people. We get along very well. Occasionally even meet up outside of work with some I've known for 15 plus years. There is a minority that can be annoying. Some only use me as a last resort, which is okay. I understand, I'm not everyone's first call. But they treat me like dirt because they are usually frustrated they can't get said part from their preferred channels. Most of the time, they have tried 3 to 5 other sources, and if they don't have X item, chances are slim I'll have pallets of it lying around anyway. One such character that only uses me as a last resort is Mike. Mike is routinely in a bad mood because he's been told, "Sorry, we don't have that," at least a few times before calling me. He often gets irate when I don't have whatever uncommon part he needs ASAP sitting on the shelf waiting for him. One day Mike calls, and this is how it goes. "Hello, Snake here. How can I help?" "Snake, I need to get 4 replacement trim pieces for this part. The contractor ordered it in the wrong finish." The contractor ordered it in the standard finish. This guy needs it in an obscure finish, of course. "And I need 4 of them yesterday. Please tell me you have them on the shelf." While I'm looking up the availability, he starts going off about how this is one of his most expensive projects he's worked on, and they have buckets of money, blah blah blah. At this point, I miraculously find the part in stock in my company, and I tell him, it's probably a good thing they have buckets of money, because this part is going to cost you, especially if you need 4 of them tomorrow. I do have these available, but they will have to ship from the other side of the country. "Snake, I need these parts. Please just send them over for next day air delivery. I don't care." "Mike, let me at least get you a freight estimate. Shipping has gotten very expensive during the lockdown, and I don't like shipping something without you knowing a ballpark estimate." "Snake, I told you, I don't care what it cost. Get the parts on the way." "Okay, Mike, I'll get them shipped today, sure. Let me let you go because it's 3 p.m. and I need to get on the phone with that warehouse so they can force the order to print right away." So I ordered the parts just as Mike asked. These parts were 4 pieces. Ground shipping would have run 4 to 5 days and probably cost $25 each. Next day air, $386 each. They weigh a decent amount, which makes anything going by air cost multitudes more. Shipping ended up costing almost as much as the product. I didn't hear from Mike for a few days. The product arrived as requested. He finished the job and got the contractor out of hot water. He didn't have time to wait on his bill to arrive in the mail, so he called me for the freight cost. "Snake, how much was the freight for that stuff last week?" "Let me pull it up. Looks like it ran $1,544, plus the cost of the product at $2,230. "You're kidding, right?" "No, sir. Overnight air shipping from across the country is very expensive. Can show you the bill from UPS if you'd like." "I told the contractor it would probably run $400. Goodness, Snake. I could have waited a day or two if I had known it was that much." Blah, blah, blah. I had to cut him off mid-rant. "Mike, I specifically asked you if you wanted an estimate. You declined. I don't know what else you could reasonably expect me to do." He pretty much mumbled some more choice words and got off the phone. Interestingly enough, he did start calling me a bit more after that, but he made sure to note the pricing a bit more closely. Husband's entitled mom eats 3 pies and then scolds him for not sharing. This story is more about my husband. I noped out on Thursday because of so many reasons, but the biggest is that I found out that his uncle was hosting but was only making the turkey. We were to bring the rest. My mother-in-law, who is the entitled person of this story, likes to leave things out, and then when we find out from the horse's mouth, she acts all, "Well, I didn't know." I'm a restaurant general manager, and I work stupid and ungodly hours. I am not about to take my day off to cook for entitled jerks. I did, however, utilize my amazing deal-finding skills and buy what husband needed to make a couple sides as well as some really nice pies. Now it needs to be mentioned that one of these pies is my husband's favorite, peach pie. He specifically asked for it. This is a man who runs herd on his mom all day while I work. We all live together. He does all the chores while she camps in her chair. He also suffers horrible chronic back pain from stenosis. Of course he gets peach pie for Thanksgiving. So Tuesday I transfer money to his card to go get whatever he needs for Thursday last minute. I'm working 12-hour shifts closing Tuesday and opening Wednesday. He proudly tells me he found his peach pie after 3 different stores. He also gets a pecan pie. I asked him why not pumpkin. He said his mom had already eaten a whole pumpkin pie in less than a day. So for context and a side note, his mother also lacks basic self-control. In her 70s, she powers through 5 gallons of milk a month. I buy a case of soda for hubby, it's gone in 2 days, and he maybe gets 1 can. So this disgusted me, but didn't surprise me. I told him to hide the pies, but he said he told her they were for Thursday. So I basically slept straight through them getting up and leaving. They didn't get home until late, but oh boy, I sure heard them. Husband was upset, which didn't surprise me. He's always upset after visits to his uncles, and not just mad, very drunk too. His mom is also upset, but doesn't seem to get why. And she keeps rug sweeping whatever he's mad at. I finally shut the door and calm him enough to tell me. First, she didn't help him with any of the sides. He made potatoes, gravy, and stuffing, box stuffing. The potatoes were real, and I showed him how to do gravy from pan juices. She couldn't be bothered to make stovetop, while he peeled and boiled and mashed potatoes, battling his back. Second, apparently his mom also couldn't keep her grubby paws off the pies for 36 hours. She had eaten a slice or 2 of each. Then when he went, "What the heck?" she was like, "Well, I didn't know, and good thing I did. One's too sweet, and the peach isn't very good, and you should have got apple." Surprise, he did get apple, but that's my favorite, and I promptly hid it in the garage because I've been burned by her lack of self-control before. Husband didn't think much on dessert until the little light went off saying, "Ooh, pie." He goes out and no pie. His uncle had 1 piece of pecan, so his mom and uncle's lady friend ate the rest. I'm gonna go with lady friend probably ate 1 piece, but nothing left. Husband was mad. Uncle made a joke about first dibs. They argued the whole way home. She just couldn't see what the big deal was. Anyhow, I stopped at a bakery close to work yesterday and picked up a whole fresh peach pie. I walked in the door and like a bloodhound, she was all, "Oh, pie." I told her this is for my husband since he didn't get any the day before. Cue cat butt face. Hubby was thrilled. He ate like 3 pieces and I put the rest safely with my apple pie. Best part of the night? She came asking for a piece. Husband claimed he ate it all. Cue cat butt face number 2 and scolding about sharing. Reply. Why does such a lazy, selfish, and entitled person live with you? OP. We moved in when she needed some help after a surgery. Then stupid happened and we have not been able to move out. Rents doubled and husband had to completely quit working. The deal is we pay for everything except gas, electric, and trash. But the last year or so, we pay that as well because she forgets until there's a knock at the door and a utility man wants money or cut off. We live in the city, so even though she's got a $1,500 trash bill, I think that rarely gets money towards it either. We struggle to keep up. Husband gets disability from the VA, and until recently, I was an hourly shift supervisor at a quick service restaurant. I got promoted and now run my own store. We are secretly saving up for a house, and husband is waiting for an increase from the VA, which will give us a large sum for a down payment. I've wanted to move out for ages because I'm so tired of the entitlement, but he's understandably worried about leaving because of her general lack of care for bills and basic needs. It's a whole huge involved thing. I just don't even put myself out there anymore. We live in a city that the growth has exploded and wages have not risen to meet that growth. We have been stuck, especially when everything we have goes to keeping up with her bills and ours. Soon though, prices are dropping in the housing market and our credit is getting better as I'm paying off my school loans. Your mother-in-law sounds like one selfish, manipulative old battle axe. My sympathies. Have you considered labeling certain items? For example, laying saran wrap lightly on top of that peach pie and a note on top of that reading, "Reserved for hubby alone." Or on a can of fruit cocktail, a sticky label reading, "Reserved for fruit salad on Thursday." This is definitely not a perfect solution, but it might help a little. OP. She does respond to labels when she wants to. I keep a Sharpie Velcro to the fridge and designated my own drawer in the fridge. It works about 70% of the time. We started this when she ate 10 of my Lunchables in about 3 days. Husband struggles to get enough calories in me. I love to eat, honestly, but the hours I keep and the stress at work if he doesn't physically see me eat something. Lunchable or an Easy Mac or bowl of soup, he thinks I don't eat. My coworkers are the same way. One of my managers the other day told me, I've been working with you for 2 months, and I don't think I've ever seen you actually eat. I do love to cook and eat, it's just not enjoyable or fun around mother-in-law. Am I the jerk for siding with my mom over my wife in front of people? My mom and my wife hate each other. For years, I backed up my partner. I have no regrets. She is the love of my life, and my mom is a difficult person. They have now reached a place where they can be civil because of clearly laid out boundaries. My mom struggles with nuance. One of my mom's big issues was she didn't want to be around my wife often and was lashing out, so we made it clear that she isn't obligated to invite me every time she invites my sisters. But if she does invite us, she darn well better be civil. As a result, I see my mom 4 to 6 times a year, but she is on good behavior. Occasionally, I get jealous, knowing my sisters are over there like every week, but I've never regretted taking this stand. Years ago, my wife really wanted to host Christmas, but no one was willing to let her. My mom said she would not be spending Christmas at her house, and my mother-in-law pitched the temper tantrum from heck and cried for 3 days. As a compromise, hosts her own pre-Christmas about a month before Christmas. It's pretty much 2 Christmases, but no one complains. The only thing is, we don't do gifts, because that would be a lot of gifts for the kids. Anyway, my wife had her pre-Christmas Saturday. My sister and brother-in-law gave my mom a Christmas gift, though we never exchanged gifts and just said they wanted to. It was a glitter bomb, and a huge one at that. There was literally lime green glitter everywhere, and then my sister got paged into work. She's a doctor, and my brother-in-law left because they came in the same car. My wife was upset, which I fully get. I did tell my mom to stop shaking out her hair and clothes in the house. She went outside and got as much off as she could. When my mom came in, my wife told her she needed to clean up. My mom said she shouldn't have to clean it because she didn't bring the glitter bomb and she's the victim. No, she is not actually a victim. She plays jerk pranks on people as well. My wife said it was her daughter, their prank. She needs to clean it. My mom flat out refused. My wife got mad and said she shouldn't have to clean it. My mom told her to go to the ER and find my sister then. My wife looked to me to back her up, and I said I agree that my mom shouldn't have to clean it. It isn't her house, and her daughter is a grown woman, so not her responsibility. My wife got mad at me for taking my mom's side, and my mom did seem a tiny bit smug. My mother-in-law began insulting my mom, so my mom left soon after. I was the one who cleaned it, which I get is annoying, and my sister or brother-in-law should have. My wife was annoyed that I didn't do a good enough job, but glitter is hard to work with. I vacuumed and said I would try to use packing tape whenever everyone left. When everyone was gone, my wife told me I humiliated her and that she was so hurt that I would side with my mom, who I agree can be awful. I validated that she can be, but said she hasn't been in years, and in the moment, I don't think she did anything wrong. Sure, I'll keep my meals under $30 as per the policy. I'll make sure it's $30 every single time. I do a lot of fly-in, fly-out travel for my job. Usually I'm so busy with work while on site, or I am stationed somewhere with food options I don't want to waste my calories on, and I don't eat anything the whole day or just buy a coffee. Our employee expenses policy at work is $30 a day, which is mostly fine, but there are some high cost of living cities, and sometimes my meals go above that policy because there's not many options, especially if I want to eat healthy, which is important when you're constantly on the road. Plus, so many airports have completely shut down their food courts and haven't reopened them yet, so there's hardly any options but fast food. So I submit my expense one month, and I've gone $1.50 over the daily limit because I treated myself to a coffee that morning as well as a lunch because I was tired after the god-awful early flight I had to take. The company had recently changed their policy, and now a different set of people are approving expenses. The previous people didn't mind going over by a few dollars because it balances out with trips where I didn't eat anything. But this new group are absolute sticklers and rejected the expense, citing I was over the daily limit. I tried to argue. I had 10 other visits that month in which I didn't eat a single thing, but they still weren't budging. It really left a sour taste in my mouth. Now, every single visit, I force myself to spend as close to $30 as I can because forget them. My husband is happy because it means I now bring back, slightly squished, but free food for him. I feel bad for wasting food, but often I just buy a meal and eat a few bites and throw it in the bin. However, the expense policy is $30 a day, and by God, I am going to stick to it now. While in the past I might have billed $100 for the entire month because I didn't bother to eat, I am now billing twice or 3 times that. I also used to push myself to keep working all day, But now I religiously take my 30 minutes to go and buy some food, so that's 30 minutes less work they are getting from me too. Karen stole my cookbook, so now I'm suing her. My family is originally from a country with a very distinct style of cooking that is hard to replicate in the States. Growing up, my mom always did the cooking for big family events and at home for the immediate family, so her cooking was a huge part of my childhood. For one of my birthdays, I asked her for a cookbook of as many of the recipes as she could remember. So I have this handwritten journal full of my favorite childhood recipes. This cookbook has a lot of sentimental value to me, especially since my mother passed away shortly after. My cousin has been pestering me about borrowing the cookbook for years. She claims it's fair because my mother's cooking was just as much a part of her childhood as mine. She feels this way because her own mother was neglectful and her dad was absent, so my mom was often a mother figure to her, and in all honesty, her only parent-like figure. She spent some time living with us, and she sometimes called my mom, Mom. I've offered to let her take pictures or scan it. She says it would take too long and wouldn't mean as much as the real thing. The reason I'm against her just taking it is because my cousin is a messy and clumsy person, especially in the kitchen. I've never seen her cook a meal without causing some huge mess or spill. This scares me because the cookbook is not laminated or protected in any way. It's just paper and pencil. I had the family over for Thanksgiving and realized the morning after that my cookbook was gone. I immediately sent my cousin multiple texts because I knew it was her, but didn't get an answer. So today I went over in person. She answers the door and immediately starts crying and justifying herself. She spilled tomato sauce all over the book and then soaked it, trying to clean it up in tomato sauce. Most of the pages are pretty much destroyed and illegible. Nobody else in the family knows all those recipes. I feel like I've lost a part of my mother and a part of my childhood. I plan to pursue legal action. The family has caught wind of this, and I've received a flurry of messages calling me the jerk and various other names, saying how I'm ruining the family over a book and a mistake, etc. I really empathize with her grief over my mom, and I know they had a close relationship. I also understand that she didn't spill on the book intentionally and that she feels bad about it. I don't think that justifies her stealing and ruining something with that level of sentimental value to me, especially after I said no, gave reasoning for the no, and offered alternatives. So Reddit, would I be the jerk if I sue? I'm saying not the jerk, because your cousin clearly shouldn't have stolen the cookbook and ruined it, but I don't understand what you would get out of a lawsuit. You're the jerk. You're seriously going to sue your cousin over a cookbook? Chances are you have tons of things that belong to your mom. There's no need to be stingy with a cookbook, and if you had just been kind and given it to her, then you wouldn't even be in this situation. Well, what do you think? Should OP sue her cousin or not? Please let us know. I'd do a lot more than just sue, to be honest. I told a customer her daughter bullied me back in high school. So I work at a department store in a mall near where I grew up. I was bullied in high school. I don't think about it a lot, but sometimes people from high school come through my store. I just do my job and I'm pleasant to them because I need the money. Anyway, a woman came through to pick up an order and she gave me the last name and spelled it. I thought, hey, that's Kristen and Katie's last name from high school. It was a pretty unique name. I didn't say anything at first, just normal pleasant chatter. She took the stuff out of the bag to make sure it was right and commented, "My daughters will love these. They just finished college, etc." She essentially confirmed whose mom she was. I was just making small talk and said, "Oh, I think I went to school with a Kristen and Katie last name." She said, "Oh yeah? How funny. Were you friends?" I said, "Oh no, I just knew they were in my grade." She said, "Were you on the volleyball team with them?" I said, "No, I don't think so." She looked at my name tag and said, "That's odd. I think I remember them talking about a penny back then. You must have come over for their birthday or something." That just kind of made me sad because I've never been to a birthday party before. And I said, "No, I definitely never came over." Kristen bullied me, and I don't think I ever talked to Katie. Her entire demeanor changed, which was okay, honestly. I had people in line. She didn't say a single thing after that and just kind of left without taking her order sheet. I didn't chase her down to get it to her. She'll have a copy in her email anyway. The next customer in line said something like, "Whew, that was awkward." And my coworker at the counter agreed. They both laughed about it, But later on, my coworker said it was pretty rude of me to tell the woman that her kid was a bully. She has a daughter. I don't have kids. I have a betta fish named Carl. On the one hand, yeah, I guess. It was like 4 years ago. But at the same time, it happened. And I think a parent would want to know that their kid was a jerk to others so they could talk to them about it, even as adults. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. You brought the connection up. What did you think was going to happen? She didn't know who you were. Her daughters probably never mentioned you. She was trying to be polite to someone who seemed to know her family. This entire interaction wouldn't have happened if you hadn't forced it. What? Did you think you would tell their mother how awful her daughter was, and she would tearfully beg your forgiveness and call your ex-bully on the phone in front of you and disown her for her crimes? You put this woman who just wanted to do her shopping in peace in an uncomfortable position for no reason. It seems I'm going against the grain here, but you're the jerk. Obviously, the daughters are jerks for the bullying, but they're not part of this story. This is an interaction between you, who works in customer service, and their mother, a paying customer who didn't bully you in high school. As part of your job, you usually have to make small talk as you complete the sale, but you recognized her. She didn't recognize you. You were the one to bring up knowing her daughters, and being asked how you know them was bound to be the next question. You may have answered honestly, but there was always the option you didn't take. Say nothing in the first place. Take her money, let her leave with her shopping, and forget about it. Instead, you went with the nuclear option. I noticed in another comment someone said you were unprofessional. This is what they mean. For minimum wage in retail, professional means you say, "Have a nice day," and then shut up. You've probably embarrassed a customer into not coming back, and you're lucky your management didn't overhear the conversation. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for what she said or not? Please let us know.
I'd be proud if I found out my kids were bullies.
Am I the jerk for quitting my job after a 16-hour shift? I, 19 male, work at a gas station for the past 7.5 months. I had just put in my 2 weeks notice last week. I worked an 8-hour shift. I finished all of my paperwork and waited on my coworker. We'll call him A, who is supposed to work overnight. 5 minutes pass and I call A, but he doesn't answer. I try to call both managers, S and R we'll call them, but neither of them answered. It's now 12 a.m. I could just walk out, let them deal with this, but as the only person who was on the shift, I decided I couldn't leave the store, so I stayed all night long. This is when I was honestly considering quitting on the spot. I had already put in my 2 weeks notice. Plus, I live in an employment at will state. So 5:30 a.m. rolls around, my manager doesn't clock in till 6 a.m., but upon seeing my car, came in and asked me why I was still here. I tell him A never showed up to work, so I stayed. I showed him my call log of me calling him and S multiple times throughout the night, as well as A. He told me that he drove his fiancée to work last night at 10 p.m. and must have passed right out last night. He said I should have texted him because he was up at 4 a.m. and, in his words, "If I had seen your message, I would have hopped in the shower and gotten here." While it's a nice sentiment, that meant that R was up at 4 a.m., and I don't know anyone who doesn't check their phone in the morning or use their phone as an alarm anymore. There's no way he wouldn't have seen all the missed calls from last night. I brush it off, do my paperwork for the night, again, and ask him if they're going to make me work my shift today, because I was scheduled for another 8-hour shift. He calls S, who answered immediately. She said her ringer was off last night. S tells me that I would possibly have to work my shift if they couldn't get a hold of A. I was too exhausted to really plead my case, and I was on the verge of crying because I was hurting so bad at this point and starting to feel sick. R told me he had messaged me about whether or not I work tonight. I said okay and went home. I told my parents all about the issue, and they said it was a little suspicious. How I couldn't get a hold of anyone. S has never missed any of my calls ever, but she answered Paul's call immediately when her ringer is off? It feels suspicious. A jab because I had put in my 2 weeks notice. My dad told me I need to quit immediately. Mom even asked if anyone apologized or thanked me, and they didn't. R sent me a message that said I needed to come in at 5 p.m. and work a 6-hour shift. I just worked a 16-hour shift, and you want me to work 6 more hours? That's 22 hours in a short amount of time. He told me a 4-hour shift, not 6. I told him I wasn't coming in, and I've decided to quit on the spot. A part of me truly feels guilty about it because I've always worked through my 2 weeks notice and it just feels wrong. So, am I the jerk in this situation? Not the jerk. They're managers. They get paid more for dealing with emergencies like A's no-show. If they think working 22 hours within a 36-hour period is doable, I guess that's a lucky thing for them, as they're about to find out how it feels. Not the jerk. One of my first jobs was at a daycare where I watched the kids from 4:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. when we closed. After about 8 or 9, when the last infant went home, I was usually alone. Now in our state, legally, no one is supposed to be alone in a daycare, but the two managers claimed it was okay because they each lived less than 5 minutes away. So one Friday, the empty house back behind the daycare caught fire. It was kind of wooded, and I was the first to call 911. I tried calling the managers then, to no answer. After the firemen checked out the building, they suggested we needed to evacuate. 2 parents had showed up and mercifully stayed with me while I was frantically trying to call the managers. For 2 hours, while I tried to keep the kids calm and contact all the parents, I think I had about 5 kids left. Those 2 never called back. I got all the kids to their parents and I locked the place up. I get called at 4:30 a.m. because they had both been out drinking and went to a concert and didn't see all the messages. When I went into my next shift, it was to hand in my resignation. It was the first time I quit a job, and I was so stressed I had hives. They were so nasty, claiming I should have tried harder to get a hold of them. I was in tears and left without going back. But I did send a nice letter to the state board with my story of all the times they left me alone, including emails I had sent expressing my concern over exactly this situation. There was even a letter where I asked what would happen if I slipped mopping and hit my head, asking which of the kids I should train to call them for backup in case I was unconscious. I also had letters from other employees and parents and a contact number for the fire chief, who were all concerned that I was left alone. They got shut down 2 months later. Oh! She don't know nothing. Waited for 2 hours to get called at the DMV. Went through the 30-minute paperwork process, finally got outside, and 2 ladies started yelling from their car. Lady 1, Lady, talking to me. Can you get state IDs in there? Lady 2, talking over Lady 1. Do you work here? OP shakes head and shrugs shoulders. No, I don't work here. I believe so, but I don't know. Lady 1. But can I get my ID? OP. I believe so, but I don't know. There's a guy that stands out here to check you in. He's helping someone. Lady 1. Can you go get him? Just go in there and get him. I'm gonna go in there and get him. Me. I can't go back in. I don't work here. Lady 1 and 2. You don't work here? You don't know nothing. Why are you even out here? You don't work here. All I did was walk out of the exit door. I walked away and listened to the constant insults because I don't work there. Edit. Y'all got me giggling over here. Also, I forgot a fun bit of the story until just now. The DMV guy ended up coming back outside about 5 minutes after the verbal lashing I received as I texted my husband the saga. They called him over to their car just as they had tried to do to me. Lady 1. Can I get an ID here? Lady 2, bringing out Lady 1's walker. DMV guy. Yes, you can get your ID here, but we aren't taking any more walk-ins for the day. You'll need to make an appointment. Cue hysterics from both women. Some names and other powwow amongst both of the ladies. Lady 1, the driver. Man, I really need to get my ID. I just need a state ID. I can't see, and I'm having a hard time walking. I just moved here, but I need to get my ID. I just need to get my ID. Can't I just get in to get it? Guy. I understand. We just cannot take anyone else this morning without having an appointment. You'll have to come back after you make an appointment. Well, fine then. Can I make an appointment? I didn't hear his response, but he finished the conversation and promptly returned to the front door, where I heard him get cussed out by 3 more people because they needed an appointment, and they felt they should get to go in right that second. I just want to know, how is she driving if she doesn't need a driver's license and just wants a state ID? Also, why is she driving if she can't see? She and her friend ended up yelling over to me again a few minutes after that. They called, Lady, about 30 times while I ignored them. Another guy finally came out of the building behind me, and they asked him their question. There's no way I was about to talk to them again, not even to answer them with how to get out of the parking lot. Am I the jerk for leaving early from Thanksgiving with my in-laws Because I did not want to watch the movie Love Actually. There's a tradition at my in-laws that we all sit down and watch a Christmas movie after lunch is over, and we bring out the tree and everything. It's usually a lot of fun, and after the movie, people leave or sleep over or whatever. I'll say that historically, my sister-in-law is really big on tradition and makes a big deal about if things are different or if people try to back out. There's a reason for it, but it's irrelevant in my opinion. Well, some context is that I found out my husband had been cheating on me earlier in the year. We're in therapy and working through a lot of stuff. We're staying together. It doesn't mean I'm healed. I still have a lot to go, but I'm working on it. The movie that my sister-in-law picked this year was Love Actually, which is a family favorite. I asked if we could maybe watch something else because we've watched it a few times. It was shot down, which is totally fine. I don't get to ruin everyone else's time. I pulled my husband aside and said, "Hey, I think I'm going to take off. Do you mind?" He asked me to just stay and that maybe I can go to the bathroom or something during those scenes. But I said no, I'm not going to feel comfortable. He accepted it and said that he wanted to stay to spend time with his family. When I got back inside, I said that I wasn't feeling great and was going to head back home and come pick up my husband tomorrow morning. Everyone kept asking me to stay, and my sister-in-law was like, "Is it because we won't watch a different movie?" I said no, I just wasn't feeling great, and got my things and left. When I got home, I polished off a bottle of wine and watched Gossip Girl for a few hours and just calmed down and relaxed. Sister-in-law texted me if everything was okay. I said yeah, feeling a bit better, and she wrote this whole thing about how she gets that it's boring to watch the same movies over and over again, but that my husband was obviously upset that I just left him there and how it was awkward and uncomfortable that I just abandoned him. I just responded, "I'll keep that in mind." And she kept going on with, "Are you going to pull the same thing if we watch Rudolph with the kids on Christmas?" I didn't respond to her, and now I feel like maybe I didn't handle this well. I thought that if I stayed there, even if I left the room during those scenes, I'd know they were coming and fixate on it. Like I said, we're working on it, but the triggers are still triggers, and I didn't want to make a spectacle of myself. Am I the jerk? Should I have just sucked it up and removed myself for the sake of family tradition? Sorry, I should have said, "No, his family does not know." Forgot to include that. Thanks. Hey guys, thanks so much for all the comments. I just wanted to address something that keeps coming up so people don't have to keep commenting about it. We don't want his family or my family or anyone to know. It's not because of shame, embarrassment, etc. It's because we like to keep our private lives private. No, he didn't twist my arm into this. I also prefer to keep our lives private. We won't be telling anyone who doesn't need to know. Therapists involved, for example. You should have told them. I'm so sorry. Cheating is devastating and I admire your commitment to making the marriage work. But you need to really take a step back and understand something. Your husband asked you to maintain a high level of discomfort and pain, all in an attempt to shield himself from the consequences of his own behavior. His sister-in-law is pushy, yes, so is mine. But she didn't do it maliciously because you have protected the very person who hurt and betrayed you. That is, of course, a decision made by the both of you. But in my opinion, that means hubby should be even more aware of your comfort and boundaries and be actively working toward respecting them. He didn't, and now you are paying the price. Again, you are not the jerk. The only reason I don't say not the jerk is because your hubby is. He should have put his foot down on a movie change, not asked you to take another cut to the heart for him. Good luck and happy holidays. Edit. For those who insist I am the worst and stop reading after the first sentence, what I should have said was, I would have told them. If all you want to comment is how atrocious I must be for saying you should have told them, never fear, other people already have you covered. Thanks. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for leaving and not watching the movie or not? Please let us know. You couldn't even pay me to watch a Christmas movie called Love Actually. Am I the jerk for quitting my job to be a house husband and going to court to get 50-50 visitation and remove child support? Me, 36 male, and my ex-wife, 35 female, have 2 kids who are 7 and 6. We've been divorced for 3 years now, and we are both happily remarried. We were bad spouses, but are now decent friends and both good parents. My ex-wife has primary custody, but currently I get them every other weekend and 2 to 3 evenings a week. It also helps that my wife, 38 female, and I live just a few miles away in the next town. Since the divorce, my ex-wife has been a stay-at-home mom and her husband, 36, male, has a good job making $120,000 a year. I have a good job and make $150,000 a year, but my wife has always been the breadwinner and recently received a sizable promotion, raise up to $280,000 a year. I've always wanted to go back to school, but with my work schedule, I was never able to do it. My wife and I have been talking, and she thinks I should quit my job, go back to school, and be a house husband. She already made the joke about getting me a French maid outfit. Ha ha ha. Seriously though, this would allow us to spend more time with my kids too. We've been going over this for a few weeks, talking through how it would reduce our income, retirement savings, how it would affect our marriage, etc. We also talked about how we could logistically do it with the kids too. Luckily, since we live close to my kids' school, it should be easy for me to do school drop-offs and pickups, so I could do a 50-50 arrangement. Here's my concern. Since my ex-wife was a stay-at-home mom and I kept working, I've been paying her $2,000 a month. If I quit my job and went 50-50 on custody, I think it would be fair to go back to court to get child support reduced to zero, since neither of us would be working and we would be 50-50. I talked to my ex-wife about this, and at first she was on board until I brought up child support. She blew up, calling me selfish for only thinking about myself, and that since I have a good job, I need to keep it. I didn't want to get into a fight with her, so I hung up, but now I'm second-guessing everything. Am I the jerk for wanting to quit my job to be a house husband and go to court to get 50-50 visitation and remove child support? Edit 1. My ex-wife and I split all kid-related expenses, and I have covered their health insurance since birth. I offered to continue paying for their coverage. Well, it would be on my wife's plan, but still. Edit 2. As mentioned above, we live just a few miles away from my ex-wife and her husband. Nothing would change for the kids' education, sports, friends, favorite donut shop, etc. Edit 3. My ex-wife was a successful real estate agent making $100,000 a year. She chose to be a stay-at-home mom after she got remarried. Edit 4. I will of course consult with an attorney before taking any actions. Edit 5. I feel it is important to add this note about how we arrived at $2,000 a month of child support. When we got divorced, I was earning $140K a year, and my wife was earning $100K a year. She didn't want to live in the house, so we refinanced her out of the house and she was paid out. The California Child Support and Spousal Support Calculator gave me a guideline of $1,350 per month for child support and $100 a month for spousal support. When we went through mediation, she requested $2,000 since she was going to have the expense of a new 3-bedroom house. I agreed to the increased amount of money. Even after she was married and my ex-wife and her husband bought their house, I never went back to lower the monthly payments. Reply. If in America, depending on the state, talk to a lawyer. You can't quit your job without cause if you're the provider. There are laws that prevent people from doing this. Reply. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but is child support not in part about keeping kids' quality of life stable between two households? If your combined household makes doable hers still, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if you were still on the hook for child support. I'm also going to point out that if you're quitting your job to go back to school, the judge will likely be inquiring about why you think school will take you less time than a job, enough to be able to handle 50-50 custody when you didn't want it when you had a job, and what you plan to do when you finish school. The "I don't know" that you're giving us here won't fly. Nobody is going to alter a custody agreement that's working to 50-50 knowing that you're not sure you plan to keep 50-50 custody indefinitely, that you're legitimately going to put renegotiation back on the table in 3 years. Your kids need stability, and spending 3-ish years with 50-50 and then you going back to being a weekend visit after is less ideal than staying a weekend visit the whole time. Am I the jerk for calling my brother's wife a neglectful, financially irresponsible wife? I'm female 32, and my brother, male 36, had a serious accident in his truck 4 years ago, resulting in him becoming disabled and wheelchair-bound. My sister-in-law, his wife, used to be a stay-at-home wife. She is currently handling his care and are essentially living off his Social Security benefits payments, which admittedly isn't a lot, but my parents pay for the house's mortgage, so there's enough money to get them by. My sister-in-law and I have never really gotten along, but we stay civil. However, my biggest argument with her happened days ago when she told us she was going to pursue her old job again to be able to earn money. My parents and I were confused. We asked, how is she going to go back to work when she has my disabled brother to care for? She told us she's going to hire a carer to handle all of my brother's needs, which triggered a very negative reaction in me and my parents. I told her she chose to become a stay-at-home wife, but she explained that circumstances change and she had to go back to work she left years ago to be able to provide for herself and my brother, and a carer is better qualified to care for my brother since she feels overwhelmed and exhausted. But I pointed out how a personal carer requires so much money and that her new commitment of a job cannot be put before her husband. I told her it was a bad idea, but she argued that she is in this situation, not me, and she's trying to improve it while I'm judging her from a distance. I told her she was wrong since this is my brother we're talking about, and I help with the mortgage. So in response, I called her a neglectful, selfish, financially irresponsible wife for throwing money, my brother's money, away on a carer when it's unnecessary and she is available, but she chooses to go back to work. She acted shocked and lashed out at me, saying I shouldn't have called her those cruel things and that I should show some empathy. I said I do have empathy for my brother and her too, but now that she's going to pay a carer using my brother's social security benefits, then I can't help but feel she's slowly checking out of her own marriage. She got highly offended that I question her love for my brother now that he's disabled and left in a rush after calling me nuts and awful. My mother agreed partially with what I said, but told me I went out of line by calling her neglectful, especially since she, sister-in-law, said she's wanting to go back to work to improve her living situation, but my dad is 100% on my side. Was I the jerk for my reaction, or was I justified? Whoa boy, you're not going to enjoy this comment section. Yes, you're the jerk. 1. Caregiver burnout is 100% real. Why not give your sister-in-law a break and you care for your brother for a week while she stays in a hotel? 2. She's probably trying to keep the marriage alive. Caring for somebody with disabilities is a lot like being a parent. Breaking that dynamic by hiring a carer is probably the single best thing for their relationship, not to mention increasing your brother's dignity. Did you ask what he thinks of this plan at any point? 3. Horrible as it sounds, permanently disabling injuries have a nasty tendency to reduce lifespan. Would you keep supporting your sister-in-law if your brother passed? Does she know that? She needs a safety net, which means a job and a pension. Not your marriage, not your business. Butt out. You're the jerk on every level, OP. How is your sister-in-law neglectful for being willing to pay for a medical professional to do something they're trained for? How is she neglectful for trying to add money into your brother's and her household? If you're so worried about them paying for your brother's care, I expect you or your mom to step up and take him in. You're the jerk. She is correct. A carer would be way more qualified to do their job than she is. Also, yeah, it is horrible to care for someone 24/7, especially a close family member. It is so physically, mentally, and emotionally draining. Take some PTO and put yourself in her shoes for however long you can to try and see what it's like. Until you are in her shoes, you may not judge her. It is very wonderful that you help pay for their mortgage. That does not mean you get to say she has to stay home all the time. Am I the jerk for telling my sister to reimburse me for 1/2 the cost of my wedding from 10 years ago? My younger sister got engaged a couple months before lockdown. Neither of us are close with our parents, and we are the only siblings. I'm 7 years older and more established in my career. My sister and her fiancé struggle financially, which is to be expected as they're just starting out. I'm not rich by any means, but I've always done my best to help them when I can. Groceries, rent, etc., because I know that they would never get any help from our parents. When they announced their engagement, pre-lockdown, I was happy for them and offered to help them with some of the wedding costs and throwing a bridal shower. Then lockdown hit and all plans came to a grinding halt. My sister is incredibly impatient and doesn't think before she acts. She had asked about the bridal shower numerous times. I told her that we could not do this right now because of what's going on, and also that my financial situation has changed and I would not be comfortable spending this money until my work hours were back to normal. I also have bills and kids that need to come first. She got angry that I was unsupportive just like our parents, which upsets me immensely as I've done a lot for her, and decided to elope at City Hall a couple weeks ago. They didn't bother to tell anyone and just made a rude and dramatic post about it on Facebook. Not that anyone cares, but we got married today, blah blah blah, and then went to berate individual family members in the comments. No surprise that she ruffled quite a few feathers with this crap. She is not the first family member to elope, so the eloping wasn't the issue. I got a message from her earlier asking me about when we were having the bridal shower. I told her that we weren't, and that bridal showers are for before weddings. No one would go now anyways. She got upset again and made a comment about how she had not received any wedding gifts yet either. I told her that she likely won't be getting anything, as not only is it not customary to send gifts after someone elopes, but she's acting like an entitled jerk. She panicked. I guess she had been banking on these gifts, and then suggested that since I received over $6,000 worth of gifts 10 years ago, I should have to give her one half, and also still give her the money I was going to for the wedding, and that she had quit her job after the wedding because she thought she was getting this money. Here's where I might be the jerk. I lost my temper with her entitled crap. I refused to give her any more money. In my opinion, she should not have quit her job. I also told her that I'd write her a check for one half the gifts as soon as she paid one half the cost of my $40,000 wedding. Now she's whining on Facebook about how I'm petty and now she can't afford her rent. Edit for clarity. My bridal shower was 10 years ago, not my wedding. Want me to come to class and present despite being ill? Okay. For context, this was before 2020, back in my early university years, aka 2018 to 2019. It started one Wednesday morning when I woke up feeling like complete and utter crap. This was a problem, as today I was scheduled to do my oral presentation along with other students in one of my classes. But I figured no way would I be wanted to come in sick. And by sick, when I looked in that mirror, I was so pale I looked dead. My nose looked like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. My eyes were so sunken in that they were in the back of my head, and I was sweating like heck from a high fever. Oh, and my throat felt like it was made of sandpaper. Yeah, no way was I going into the lecture hall looking like this. So I went through the normal procedures, submitting a temporary absent form, which meant for the absent to be valid, I needed to go to a walk-in clinic, Joy, and call any professors or teachers' assistants to inform them of my absence. We have a lot of interactive stuff in lectures. That's also common courtesy, along with an email for a paper trail. My afternoon physics professor understood. My evening teaching assistant for earth sciences was cool with it. My morning chemistry professor?
Either you stop lying and come in, or it's an automatic 0.
I'm sorry? I've never missed one of your classes, even with a minor cold. But this? Okay, fine then. So I get up and my mom drives me in, as I didn't have my license yet. Long story, and she wasn't working that day. She's self-employed. She's worried about me, but I reassured her that I would only be about 20 minutes max. I get to the campus and walk in, heading to my lecture hall, and of course, looking like utter crap, stumbling because I'm also running a really high fever. I get a lot of weird looks, and some students even stop me to ask if I was okay. I recall responding with something like, "I won't be if I'm late for class." When I do get to my lecture hall, I enter 2 minutes late. Professor sees me and goes,
"OP, about time. Get down here and start your presentation, or it's a fail."
Alrighty. I went up, plugged in my laptop to the projector, and released an almighty round of wet coughing. Now, my lecture mates are whispering to each other, and Professor looks at me startled. But all I remember doing is looking right at the professor, smiling, and saying very hoarsely, "Sorry, I'll get started." She quickly tried to send me on my way, but I say, into the microphone, my voice sounding like a sick bear's, No, you said if I don't present, it's a 0. I can't fail 20% of my grade." So off I go, presenting with a hoarse voice, long, hacking, wet coughs, and with occasional almost throwing up. When I finished, I then turned to the professor and asked, again into the mic, "Do you need me to stick around for the other presentations, or can I go?" I was on my way to the doctor's within 5 minutes, and wouldn't you know, I had a serious case of the flu, something that the university did not want you to bring to campus because it could spread like wildfire. Needless to say, when I filed my full absence form with my doctor's note, I mentioned how my chemistry professor insisted upon me coming to class. I also included a screenshot of the email she sent me while I was being driven in, which stated the same thing she told me over the phone. When I was finally able to return to campus a week later, I was surprised to enter a class to see a substitute professor. I later looked at my email and saw a class notification that our original professor was placed on leave. She was let go by the end of the term. Reply: likely, this was not her first time doing this type of thing to a student. This is why reporting and always giving a paper trail of bad professors is important. It may not happen after you report, but one never knows what their file looks like. Am I the jerk for telling my fiance he doesn't get to name both of our babies? I'm pregnant with twins, and my fiance and I just found out we're having a boy and a girl. We started talking about names the other day. He told me that he really wanted to name the boy baby after himself, first and middle. I wasn't on board at first, but after thinking about it, I agreed. I told him that for the girl baby, I wanted her first name to be my sister's since we're very close, and the middle to be my dad's since he passed when I was young. My dad's name isn't really neutral, but it's becoming a common girl's name. My fiance got visibly sad and told me he wanted to name the girl baby after his mom and have the middle name be his dad's name. His dad's name is a neutral name. I told him that I didn't really think that it was fair that he got to name the first baby what he wanted, and now he gets to name the second baby also what he wants. I also said it wasn't fair that my family gets excluded. He said he really wanted to incorporate at least his mom's name. I told him that the girl baby's middle name can be his mom's, but then the boy's middle name is going to be my dad's. He said he wanted the baby boy named completely after him, so the baby is a junior. I told him he doesn't get to name both of the babies what he wants. He got upset about this comment and has been standoffish towards me. I don't think that was so awful of me to say, but now I'm second guessing my comment and wondering if I'm the jerk for it. Edit. I feel the need to clear something up because I'm seeing it a lot. Quite a lot of people keep telling me to give the kids original names and not name them after someone else. In my family, it's very normal to recycle names and name new babies after family members. It's actually considered abnormal if you give your baby an original name. I know this isn't the norm and it's weird for others, but like I said, it's normal for us and our family actually loves having recycled names. A few of us love that we have the same names. We don't find it weird and we enjoy it. Every family is different and our families enjoy sharing names. It's fine if you don't agree, but that's just how our family is. Not the jerk. Also, it's a nightmare paper-wise when a kid has the exact same name as their father. My family did this with my brother and it causes so many problems. I highly don't recommend that you do that. Also, my brother started to resent his name due to him wanting to be his own unique person and not a copy of dad. I highly recommend not going the junior route. Not the jerk. I presume he thinks they are both getting his last name too. Why shouldn't one get your last name? And he got visibly sad when he didn't get his way. It's time for you to start getting visibly sad that he can't respect your feelings. Here's a fair solution. You each choose two names. First name choice for one gender results in middle choice for the other. He picks Anne and Brad, you pick Claire and David. You end up with Anne Claire and David Brad, or you end up with Claire Anne and Brad David. Not the jerk, but you should both be naming them both. Naming kids should be 2 yeses or 1 no, and both parents need to be willing to accept it might not be their first choice, which means he can say he wants a junior. You can say, yes, I like that, or no, I don't like that. But if you agree on it, then that is both of you picking it. I think that having the boy named after him and the girl named exclusively after your family might lead to some favoritism hang-ups. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her fiance? Please let us know.
That boy's selfish though, bruh. He need to let her name one though, baby.
I canceled all my in-laws' invitations to our Christmas celebration. So to give some context, I, female 32, have been married to my husband, male 39, for 4 years. I work a full-time job while he does a 3 times a week night shift. We have a 2-year-old and I'm 6 months pregnant. The whole drama started days ago. My husband has a large family and on every Christmas they'd gather at his father's house. My father-in-law passed away a year ago, and this year my husband decided as the man of the family to host Christmas at our house. Unbeknownst to me, he sent out invitations for a 5-day Christmas celebration to his entire family, which there are about 26 members in total. I found out about by accident, and I was too shocked to react. I confronted him on it, and he said I shouldn't be surprised and just get used to it, because after his father's passing, he's now the family's head, and all major family events will be held in our house and in his presence. I freaked out and said no, this is wrong, and he should have talked to me first before sending out any invitations to his family, knowing I have other commitments like work and taking care of the house and our son. He said we'll manage if I took time off work, but that means more workload later, and it would take away from my maternity leave. I demanded he cancel the invitations, but he refused, saying, "Over my dead body," then walked out. I ended up sending a mass text to everyone who received an invitation explaining that we will not be hosting Christmas this year. He found out and went off on me, calling my behavior outrageously appalling and said that I broke his word to his family and made him look small and with no authority. I, in a very strict tone, replied that I didn't sign up to host a celebration and accommodate 26 people while pregnant, taking care of a toddler, and working. And I don't care if he becomes the head of the family after his father's passing because it means nothing to me. He took offense to that and walked out almost crying. He later talked about how I disrespected his father and him with what I had said and demanded a handwritten apology for canceling the event and for being insensitive towards him and undermining his authority in front of his family. But I said no apology from me in any form, and the issue is still up, especially with my mother-in-law giving me a stern talk about how out of line I was for disrespecting his decisions regarding the holiday celebration with family. ETA. To put this out there, he planned on sitting and telling stories of his dad while I handled everything, and his family believed that as guests, it's rude to ask them for help. Unless your husband was planning on doing all the cooking, hosting, entertaining, and taking care of the kids, not the jerk. I would seriously probably leave my husband if he spoke to me like this or acted this way. You're the one doing everything. If anything, you're the man of the family now. You work, take care of the kids, run the house. You're the one who has the authority, not him. And he comes from a family who thinks the same stupid stuff. I also probably would have carried on as life as usual and let him deal with the fallout of having to cook and entertain, as he gave you no notice and you have a job and a life. I'd show up home every day like a guest. Seriously, this man and his family are raising your kids with the same mentality. Consider whether you want your kids to be like them. If you want to continue to endure this wild behavior, you can walk away and leave him to it. Not the jerk. First of all, absolutely not to a written apology. Is that a joke? He invited everyone without consulting you, and you uninvited them without consulting him. You did the same as him, and now he has the audacity to be upset at you? I'd be asking him for a written apology. Was he going to host everything, including cleaning the house, buying and preparing food for everyone? I'm assuming he was expecting you to chip in. He should have asked you first and asked if you could take the time off. When was he going to tell you? When the family started turning up? You can't just not work for 5 days without giving notice. He didn't think about you at all in this situation, and being very pregnant, you might not be up for hosting 26 people for 5 days. He's the jerk and should be apologizing. He's completely in the wrong here and needs to work on his communication skills ASAP. I'd be so upset if I were you. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Hopefully he'll be an ex-husband soon. The guy sounds insufferable. Am I the jerk for telling my neighbor's kids they could not sled on my hill? The house I recently moved into has a hill on the edge of the yard. I've talked to my neighbors a few times and they seemed like nice people. A couple days ago, we got our first real snowfall of the winter. My neighbors reached out to me and asked if I minded if their kids went sledding on the hill. They said that the previous owner of the house had let them use it, but they wanted to check with me. I hardly use that part of the yard and have no need for it when it's covered with more than a foot of snow, so I said sure. However, today they reached out again. They explained that they would like me to bring my dog inside while their kids are sledding because it makes them nervous. I told them that she was always tied up when she was outside and no danger to them, but they were welcome to keep their kids inside if they saw her out, and that if their kids were sledding, I would stay out with her. They said that since the bottom of the hill was on their land, I couldn't restrict their access to it, and that I was endangering them by letting my dog be outside unsupervised with them. I repeated what I said and added that if they wanted to meet my dog, they could come over to meet her sometime. They just got more upset I wouldn't bring her inside and ended up threatening to call animal control on me for having an out-of-control dog. For reference, she's a maybe 40-pound older mixed breed who could probably not forge her way through the snow to where the kids are sledding even if she wanted to. She just loves sitting out in the snow. I was very upset at this point and told them they could forget about their kids sledding on the hill, and that if they were going to make unreasonable demands, they could not come on my property. They tried backtracking, but ended up getting upset at me again. Now I'm wondering if I'm being the jerk, because I could just agree to their requests and bring her inside. Am I the jerk? Edit. Since I keep getting asked this, My dog asks to go outside and is let in when she wants to come in, and I make sure she is safe while out there. Not the jerk. Honestly, you shouldn't let them anyway. If they got hurt sledding on your land, you would be liable. They could make your homeowner's insurance pay for medical bills. Not the jerk. They don't have a right to tell you what to do with your own pet on your property, as long as there's no danger to the dog, blah blah, and other caveats. You even tried to compromise by letting them meet and connect with your elderly dog, who wouldn't even be anywhere near the kids. You have no obligation to support their lifestyle wants for their kids on your property, but on their terms. Also, even threatening to report your dog equals instant enemy zone in my eyes. They're basically threatening to remove a part of your family if you don't do what they want you to. That's trash. Not the jerk. You're doing them a kindness and they crapped all over it. You can't prevent them from accessing the bottom of the hill that is on their property, but you can sure as heck stop them from starting their sledding from the top. Assuming you want to live there for a while, the best thing you could do is put a fence on your property line. No more sledding, no more danger that they will injure themselves and sue you. No worry that your properly secured, older, just hanging out in the snow dog will endanger them by being wild and out of control. Am I the jerk? I hate the Christmas gifts I get from my partner, even though I asked for them. I, 30 female, am currently in a fight about this with my partner, 35 male. We've been together for about 4 years now, and a version of this conversation seems to happen a couple times a year. It always goes like this. Him. What do you want for Christmas? Me. Give specific answer. Him. Cool. Send me a link. I send the link. Him. You know, I have an old one of these I could fix up for you instead. Me. Well, I really like this one because of the color, shape, size. It matches my stuff. I have already done the research, etc. And I was thinking of getting it for myself anyway. You don't really have to. Him. But I could just give you this one that's just sitting here unused. I should mention that we both have well-paying jobs and are child-free. We split bills and the mortgage and have savings. We're not rich, but money has not been an issue. We are fortunate. We can do nice things like eat takeout or go on a small vacation every once in a while, and we communicate well. He admits he needs guidance thinking of gift ideas for people. I usually give in because I don't want to seem wasteful or spoiled. I don't need any gifts from him at all, but he always insists for birthdays and Christmas, so I try to be honest and name something I would actually use that's not too expensive, so it's easy for him. But he always gets me a hand-me-down, thrifted, imitation brand, or jerry-rigged version. One year, I pointed out a $75 used bike in a shop. He gave me his old bike. He's 6'5", I'm 5'4". Last year, I asked for a hot stone massage at a spa. He gave me some massage oil and a coupon free massage from him. How can I say no to that without sounding ungrateful? It was lovely, but it was not a real massage. So now, just this evening, he asked me again. Me. Well, I've been browsing for a new tent for camping this summer. A dome one, so we don't have to stoop inside as much when we… Him. Oh, cool. My dad has a tent he doesn't use anymore. Me. Is it a dome tent? Him, laughing. No, it's his old army tent. Me, exploding. Why even ask me what I want if it doesn't matter what I actually want? Sometimes I just want what I want. Him. Whoa, you should hear yourself. I want. Backs away with his hands up. I'm sitting in our room alone feeling like a selfish jerk while he calls all of his duties downstairs. He plays that when he's upset. Not the jerk. You have every right to be upset. It seems he doesn't care about getting you what you want, and he just cares about saving money. This is somewhat petty, but if you want him to understand what you mean, switch out his Call of Duty game for a lower quality game, or just a different one. And when he complains, tell him that it's the same thing. It's a video game, what's the difference? This is a more aggressive approach, but I think it would get it through his head. Not the jerk. He listens, but not fully or completely, which would drive any woman utterly insane. Try one more time and try to clearly explain the problem. Use this as a specific example. I said a dome. You said your dad has an old tent, but it's not a dome tent. So your dad's tent is a no because it's not a dome tent, which is what I'm asking for. If he refuses to see the difference, your bike example is ludicrous. Did he even ask, hey, why don't you ride the bike I gave you? Seriously. I would refuse to give him any more gift ideas because it is obviously pointless and frustrating for you. Let him figure out what to get instead of you giving specifics, and he takes them as jumping off points. God bless you. The bike would have been my breaking point. Not the jerk. You don't want to seem ungrateful, but if someone wants to give you hand-me-downs, normally in my family, we do it just because, not on special occasions. We normally get each other nice gifts on birthdays, Christmas, etc. I wouldn't feel like a jerk if I were you. It would get old for me as well. 4 years is a long time to not get at least one nice new meaningful gift. If you could try talking to him without getting mad, say it's always bothered you, and maybe it was how he was raised, but you would like to start getting each other nice new gifts. If he doesn't, you said you're good financially, so go and buy what you want. Get that dome tent you want, the massage you want, and if he really cares, he'll start realizing that he should hopefully try to get you more meaningful gifts that you'd enjoy. That's just my take on it. I hope everything goes okay, and I hope you get what you would like this year. Am I the jerk for demanding that my mother display photos of my wife in her house? I got married 2 years ago to the love of my life. I feel like my mom doesn't really like her, but the relationship is mostly okay. Honestly, I have a feeling since I got married, I've been left out of a lot of stuff, but the only one I can prove is my mom's birthday trip. To be clear, no one is straight up rude, but it is clear my mom and wife don't vibe, and the rest of the family seems meh about her, which does make me sad. My mom has a wall with a lot of pictures on it. There are plenty of pictures of my sister's partner, and there are pictures of extended family, but not a single one of my wife. My mom has pictures of her because some of these were taken at events we were at, but she just chooses the ones without my wife. Honestly, this is not something I would have picked up on, but my wife did and it bothered her. My wife's family is huge on family, and while I don't think my mother-in-law loves me, she definitely includes me in everything. I brought it up to my mom, and she said she hadn't noticed. I said I didn't really believe her, and she shrugged and said my wife isn't her daughter. I pointed out that my sister's partner isn't her son, or my aunt's husband isn't her brother, but she has pictures of them. My mom said it was her house, and the whole conversation is dumb. I said she can't exclude the love of my life, and my mom said this is a really pathetic thing to care about, and we're being weird. My wife was upset and feels like it was a clear statement, so I told my mom she could either put up some pictures of my wife or we wouldn't be coming over. My mom said, "Okay, don't come over." That was probably 4 or 5 months ago. I checked up about Christmas and asked if she had put up even one picture. My mom said no, she wasn't going to. We can't make her, and just don't come to Christmas and see if she cares. Well, we won't be going to Christmas, but my sister is super upset at me and thinks I'm an entitled jerk, and I heard my stepdad was making fun of us. I don't feel too bad because everything I've read online talks about how you have to be a united front. Not the jerk. You were doing everything right. Time to show them how much better your life is without them. I know with current events, travel can be tricky, but you should try to do something special for Christmas and take lots of photos. Also, never take or post another photo of yourself without your wife ever again. If you really want to get petty, if you know there's something your mom wants, but your stepdad hasn't delivered, for example, a piece of jewelry she wants, buy one for your wife and make sure your mom finds out indirectly, and take and post photos. Edit. For those having a problem with my petty suggestion, the part about other significant others being included and not OP's wife really ticked me off. If all significant others were left out, I'd just say let it go. But if OP's wife is going to be singled out, I say unleash the petty kraken and give it a camera. Not the jerk. I experienced something very similar. My stepdad, who married my mom and was my only father figure, adopted me when I was 4. His grandmother had pictures proudly displayed in her house, all over, of every possible family member and friend, especially the little ones. She had pictures of my stepdad, mom, and my half-sister. They had after they got married, but never any of me. No one ever said anything until one day I was looking for something I was told to get in their house and found all of the pics my mom had given her over the years at the bottom of a drawer, crumpled and damaged under a lot of stuff. When I asked her what was up, I was in high school at this point, she just said, "You aren't family, you're just his wife's kid." No one defended me, said anything, or even remotely tried to confront her when I told them. So yeah, you did the right thing. I was only a kid, and your wife is an adult, but the hurt feels the same. Everyone sucks here. Your mom sucks because I believe in your gut feelings. If she has something to say about your wife, she should just tell you. But you kinda suck too, because even if you stood up for your spouse, you made it about telling her how she should be decorating her own house, and she's right to stand her ground on this point. My advice would be to call her again, not about decorating, but about the true issue, why she seems to exclude your wife. You're the jerk. Are you paying her mortgage? How about electricity and water? If not, why should you get to dictate whose picture she puts up? If I don't like someone, I'm not putting their pictures up, period. If I was your mother, I'd tell you to kick rocks too. Edit. I'm a 62-year-old woman with 2 sons. Both of their wives are darlings, and I have several pictures of them up. But if they were little jerks, you bet your butt I wouldn't have any pictures of them on display. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his mom? Please let us know.
Mama doesn't sound very nice. Have you thought about throwing her from the train?
Am I the jerk for deciding I won't give any Christmas gifts this year after my mom canceled a transaction on my card? I'm still angry over this, and I may not write very well. And also, I probably don't judge the situation very well being this angry, so I come to you. I'm a student. I have a student bank account where my college gives me money for transport when we had physical classes or scholarship. These kinds of bank accounts have no fees but are age restricted. Can't have one if you're over 25 and need an overseer. When I asked the bank about it, they told me it's just a security thing, so I chose my mom because she's more tech savvy than my dad. Well, through some incredible luck, I managed to get only top grades last year, so I was awarded a study scholarship. Great! I've been saving it up, looking forward to worldwide Black Friday, eyeing an amazing drawing tablet. I do digital art on very old intros. The tablet I was eyeing is as big as my monitor. It's a display one and all around amazing. Black Friday rolls in, and Amazon in Germany, closest to me, has it in stock at an amazing price, a price I could afford. I was so happy I ordered it. Then I got a notice that the bank refused the card. I emailed Amazon, their customer service is so fast, and we went over the card details and such, making sure it was all right. It was, and they advised me to call my bank. It was odd. I had bought things online in the past with this card and it went through. I had enough money for it, even extra. So I thought maybe they had technical difficulties, but it was too late in the day to call and they don't work weekends, so I left an email. Only to find out today that for big transactions, they ask for agreement from the overseer and that mine canceled the transfer. I was like, what the heck? And confronted mom about it, who throughout the weekend acted oblivious, and she told me that of course she couldn't let me throw money on something I don't need, and that I wouldn't have money for Christmas presents if I bought that. Then she had the audacity to ask me what I was planning to get my family this year. I told her that they won't get anything more than a bread shadow from me, and I went to my room and cried on the carpet. I missed out on the offer. I can't afford the tablet anymore, and it's all because mom wanted Christmas gifts. And no, I won't get her anything. Last year she got me a blouse too small for me that she later took for herself. She can gift herself this year too. A bread shadow is an expression for nothing in my language. Edit. Thank you so much for people offering me money in comments and DMs, but I can't accept that. I'm really grateful for you trying to help me, but I really can't take that. I'm really thankful for the offers and advice. So many people offered me advice, money, their tablets, or other means of helping, and I'm really thankful to you all. Also, lots of you told me to check the sale that's going on right now, but the tablet I ordered wasn't on sale. Yet, Epic Hamster found it. Same specs, different seller. For sale at an even better price than the Black Friday sale. I ordered it, it went through this time, and I'm so happy and excited. Thank you from all of my heart to everyone. I'm still going to reply to all of you, even if it's going to take me all night. Happy holidays to all of you. Frequently asked questions. This account I have to have because of my uni, but I'm going to make dad the overseer and also open an account at another bank, a normal one, and transfer the money in small amounts to that one so I don't bother dad with it. I'm an adult in my country. I'm 20, going to be 21 in April. The law asks my parents to support me until I finish my studies, or at least until I'm 26, but I plan on moving out sooner. I will gift my sister and dad. They have nothing to do with the incident, and I love them lots. I love mom too, but can't put up with her attitude any longer. Regarding what I'll give her, not sure yet, but there are some amazing ideas in the comments. She didn't react like that because she got me the tablet already. It's not her character to get me something she can't use. Regarding the gift Dad's planning on, and which she'll claim is from both of them, Dad is going to build a bigger enclosure for my lizard. I may wrap my lizard's old branches nice and gift them to Mom. as per Christmas traditions regarding naughty kids. And she doesn't like my scaly boy at all, so double points I guess. People saying that a drawing tablet is useless, thanks for your input, but the question was if I was a jerk for the way I reacted and my decision to not give her a gift anymore. As it's my money, I literally can do whatever I wish with it, and a display drawing tablet is incredibly useful for an aspiring digital artist as myself.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.